By the time I left Malik's hospital, the sun had already started bleeding orange over the parking lot. August heat sat on my shoulders like a wet towel, the kind of heat that made the air stink of asphalt, old rain, and somebody's bad decisions. I stood outside St. Mercy Long-Term Care with my purse strap digging into my shoulder and my heart sitting somewhere near my shoes. Malik hadn't moved today. Not that he usually did much, a blink sometimes, a finger twitch if I talked long enough, a little shift in his breathing when I played his old music low beside his bed. The nurses always told me not to read too much into it, but nurses had rules. Sisters had desperation. He was 23 now, still in that bed, still with that soft face that made him look younger if you ignored the machines, the feeding tube, and the careful way everyone touched him, like he might break worse. He'd been 12 when it happened. 12. Old enough to know Daddy was dangerous, young enough to believe getting between Mom and Raymond Cross might save somebody. It saved no one. I remembered the sound more than the sight. The crash, the scream, the crack of something hard meeting something softer. My mother still claimed she didn't know if it was the table, the lamp, or Raymond's elbow that caught Malik wrong. I knew what I saw. I also knew what pretending did for people who couldn't live with themselves. Inside Malik's room, I had sat beside him for 2 hours and told him everything. That the vending machine robbed me again. That Nurse Carla had cut her hair and was pretending it wasn't because of some dusty man named Greg. That Mom still didn't answer calls before 6 like the phone might bite her. That Raymond was still alive. Which remained personally offensive to me. "You hear me, Malik?" I had whispered, smoothing lotion over his dry knuckles. Still alive. Still wasting oxygen. Rude as hell. His lashes hadn't moved, so I kissed his forehead, swallowed the ugly lump in my throat, and left before grief climbed inside my mouth and embarrassed me in public. My car coughed twice before starting. The old Honda had more faith than horsepower. I pulled out of the hospital lot and drove home with the windows cracked, the radio low, and my mind too loud. Home. Funny word for a place that taught you how to flinch. Our house sat on the south side of a neighborhood people described as in transition when they meant broke but not hopeless enough to bulldoze yet. Small one-story houses, chain-link fences, porch chairs with faded cushions, kids riding bikes too close to the street while their grandmothers yelled from screen doors. By the time I turned onto our block, I already had a bad feeling. Then I saw the SUVs. 4 of them. Black. Expensive. Shiny in a way nothing on our street had any right to be. They lined the curb and crowded our cracked driveway like a funeral procession for somebody important. Tinted windows, engines running, men standing outside in dark clothes, still as statues and twice as cheerful. My foot eased off the gas. What the fuck? Mom was in the yard, barefoot, hair wrapped in a scarf that had slipped half off. One hand pressed to her chest like she was holding herself together by force. When she saw my car, she moved fast. Too fast. She stumbled down the walk and reached me before I could even shut the engine off. "Jaynayah," her voice cracked. "Baby, listen to me. You need to go." I stared at her through the open window. Her eyes were swollen. Not bruised, not exactly, but red and wet and terrified. My hands tightened around the steering wheel. "What did he do?" "Please." She grabbed the door when I opened it. "Don't go inside." That answered enough. A familiar heat crawled up the back of my neck. Old rage. Reliable rage. The kind that had kept me from folding in half years ago. "Move, Mama." "No." Her fingers dug into my arm. "Jaynayah, run." I looked at her then. Really looked. My mother had begged before. Begged Raymond to stop. Begged me not to make it worse. Begged the nurses to give Malik more time. Begged God, probably, though God had been suspiciously quiet around our house. But this was different. This was fear with teeth. Still, anger made me stupid. Anger had always been my favorite drug. "You should have run 20 years ago," I said, low enough that only she heard it. Her face crumpled. I hated myself immediately. Not enough to stop. I pulled my arm free and walked toward the house. One of the men by the porch shifted like he might block me. He was tall, thick-necked, dressed in black like he'd been ordered from a catalog titled Men Who Break Kneecaps. I looked him up and down. "Unless you're paying rent here, sweetheart, move." His mouth twitched. He stepped aside. That should have warned me. Men like that didn't move for girls like me unless someone scarier had told them to. The front door was open. Inside, the living room smelled like old smoke, lemon cleaner, and fear. Our couch sagged against the wall. The coffee table still had the burn mark from when Raymond threw a cigarette at Mom because dinner was late. The family photo above the TV hung crooked, like even the frame was tired of pretending. Raymond Cross sat on the edge of the couch, not his recliner. That was the first miracle. My father loved that recliner like it had crawled out of his mother's womb with him. Nobody sat there. Nobody touched the remote beside it. Nobody breathed too hard in its direction. But tonight, Raymond wasn't in his throne. A stranger was. He sat back in my father's recliner with one ankle resting over his knee, relaxed like he owned the room, the house, the whole damn street. Black suit, black shirt, no tie. An expensive watch caught the light when he turned his wrist. His hair was dark and neat, his jaw shadowed with stubble, his face handsome in a way that pissed me off on sight. Some men were handsome like a compliment. This one was handsome like a loaded gun. His eyes found me. Cold, sharp, amused. My father's hands were shaking. I stopped in the doorway. For a second, all the noise in my head went quiet. Raymond Cross, the man who had punched holes in walls and called it discipline. The man who made my mother's voice shrink. The man who turned every room into a battlefield and every apology into somebody else's fault. That man was scared. Not angry scared. Not drunk scared. Scared, scared. My mouth curved before I could stop it. "Well, damn," I said. "Looks like there's someone who can make you wish you were never born." Raymond's bloodshot eyes snapped to me. "Jaynayah, shut your mouth." "No, I think I'll watch." I leaned against the doorframe, folding my arms. "I'd be the happiest daughter alive if I woke up tomorrow and your face looked new." The stranger's gaze slid over me slowly. Not in the way men usually looked when they were deciding what parts of you they wanted to disrespect first. This was different. Assessing. Curious. Like I had walked into a game and moved a piece he hadn't expected me to touch. "You're Jaynayah Cross," he said. His voice was calm, deep without trying. The kind of voice rich men used when they knew yelling was for people without options. "Depends who's asking." "The man your father owes." I looked at Raymond. His jaw flexed, but he didn't speak. "Interesting." "Congratulations," I said. "Get in line. He owes everybody something. Money, apologies, jail time. A shallow grave if the universe ever develops taste." One of the men near the wall made a sound like he'd swallowed a laugh. The stranger smiled. Not much. Just enough. "My name is Eric Anderson." The name meant nothing to me, which was apparently my first mistake. Raymond flinched like it meant plenty. "Good for you, Eric Anderson. You selling insurance, collecting organs, or is this one of those church interventions where everybody pretends Jesus wants my daddy sober?" Eric leaned forward, elbows resting on his knees. The room changed when he moved. I don't know how else to explain it. The air tightened. The men along the wall got stiller. Even Raymond seemed to stop breathing. "Your father took money from me," Eric said. "Then he took more. Then he made promises he had no right to make." My stomach dropped, but I kept my face bored. Raymond looked at the floor. Coward. "What promises?" I asked. Eric's eyes stayed on me. "You." Silence opened wide in the room. For half a second, I didn't understand. Then I did. My laugh came out short and mean. "I'm sorry, what?" Raymond finally found enough spine to glare. "Girl, you don't know what you're talking about." Clearly, because I missed the part where your broke ass started accepting payments in daughters. His face twisted. "Watch your mouth, you little cunt." The temperature in the room dropped. Eric didn't move fast. He didn't have to. His eyes shifted to Raymond, and something in them went flat enough to make my skin prickle. "Speak to her like that again," Eric said softly, "and I'll take your tongue as interest." Raymond shut up. Just like that. I stared. Then I laughed. I couldn't help it. It burst out of me, ugly and delighted, and probably a little unhinged. My mother made a broken sound from somewhere behind me, but I couldn't look away from my father's face. "You hear that, Daddy?" I said. "Personal growth opportunity." Eric looked back at me. The amusement had returned, but now there was something else beneath it. Interest sharpened into attention. "That mouth is going to get you in trouble." "It already has," I survived. "For now." "Is that supposed to scare me?" "It should." I studied him. The suit, the watch, the controlled hands, the men waiting for his smallest signal. He was money and violence wrapped in good tailoring. Dangerous, definitely, but I had grown up with danger wearing stained undershirts and drinking cheap beer before noon. At least this one looked moisturized. "So what?" I asked. "You came here to collect me?" "Yes," Mom sobbed behind me. My chest tightened, but I forced my eyes to stay on Eric. "And what exactly do you plan to do with me?" His smile deepened. Raymond looked sick. Eric said, "Guess what, Jaynayah? You're my new toy, and you're coming with me." There it was. The line where most people would cry, beg, plead about innocence and rights and police. But rights were funny things. People talked about them like they showed up when needed. Mine had never arrived on time. So I looked at my father again. His face had gone ashy, sweat shining across his forehead. He wouldn't meet my eyes. A slow, bitter satisfaction spread through me. "I'd be happy to," I said, "if you promise me you'll keep that old man's face looking exactly like that." Eric blinked once, then he laughed. Quiet, low, real. The men in the room reacted like a bomb had chirped. Eric Anderson laughing was apparently not normal. "That," he said, "is not a problem for me." "Good. Then I have conditions." His eyebrows lifted. "You're bargaining?" "You're kidnapping. I'm multitasking." Another almost laugh from the wall. Eric didn't look away from me. "Say them." "My father doesn't touch my mother again. Not a slap, not a shove, not one of those fake accidents cowards love so much." Raymond surged half an inch off the couch. "Jaynayah." Eric's gaze cut to him. Raymond sat back down. "Beautiful." I turned back to Eric. "He doesn't step foot near St. Mercy. My brother is there. Jaynayah Cross, 23, room 214, unless they moved him again without telling me, which they better not have." "I know where your brother is," Eric said. The words slid under my ribs like a blade. My humor thinned. "Why?" "Because I don't collect blindly." There it was again, that prickle along my skin. Something wrong in the room, something larger than money. "You had people look into my brother?" "I looked into everything attached to your father's debt." "Malik isn't attached to shit." "No," Eric said. "He isn't." The way he said it made my throat tighten, and I hated that more than anything else. I lifted my chin. "Then he stays safe. My mother stays safe. Raymond stays scared. Those are my terms. And if I say no, then you still have to drag me out of here, but I'll make it irritating." His gaze dropped briefly to my hands, my purse, my worn sneakers. Then back to my face. "You think you can irritate me?" "I think I can become a spiritual experience." That smile again. Dangerous men should not have nice mouths. It felt unfair, like giving a shark dimples. Eric rose from the recliner. The room shrank around him. He was tall, taller than he looked sitting down, broad in a way that made the suit seem less like clothing, and more like a warning wrapped around a muscle. My instincts finally woke up and whispered that maybe my anger had walked me into something it didn't know how to beat. Too late now. "How would you like to leave?" he asked. I glanced toward my mother. She stood near the front door, both hands pressed to her mouth, tears shining on her cheeks. For 1 second, I wanted to go to her, hug her, apologize for what I'd said in the yard. But the old bitterness stood between us like furniture we were too tired to move. So I shrugged. "I guess you will have to kidnap me," I said. "That way, when I get tired of you, I can escape and make it dramatic." Eric stepped closer. I refused to step back. His scent reached me first. Clean, expensive, something dark underneath, like cedar after rain. His eyes searched mine with a patience that felt almost worse than violence. "Careful," he murmured. "I enjoy dramatic women." "Good." I grabbed my purse off the hook by the door. "I enjoy dangerous men who hate my father." Raymond made a strangled noise. "You stupid girl. You have no idea what he is." I looked at him over my shoulder. "No," I said, "but I know what you are. And I'm bored." That shut him up better than any prayer my mother ever whispered. Eric gestured toward the door. The men moved before he spoke. One opened the front door wider. Another stepped out onto the porch. Outside, the SUVs waited, engines purring like beasts. Mom grabbed my wrist as I passed. "Jaynayah," she whispered. "Please." I looked down at her hand. Same hand that used to braid my hair before school. Same hand that covered bruises with foundation. Same hand that signed Mullock's hospital forms while trembling so hard the nurse had to help her. "I told him my terms," I said quietly. "Don't open the door for Raymond." Her grip tightened. "Baby, I'm sorry." I wanted to tell her she should be. Instead, I pulled free. The evening air hit my face hot and wet. Neighbors had started peeking through blinds. Of course they had. People loved a show as long as the blood didn't splash their porch. Eric walked beside me down the cracked path. He didn't touch me. Somehow that made it worse, like he didn't need to. At the nearest SUV, a man opened the back door. Black leather interior, dark glass, cold air spilling out. I stopped before getting in and looked back at the house. My mother stood in the doorway. My father did not. For the first time in my life, Raymond Cross was the one too afraid to come outside. That should have felt like victory. Instead, it felt like stepping off a roof and laughing before the fall. Eric leaned close enough that only I could hear him. His voice brushed my ear, soft as a threat. "You should have listened when your mother told you to run." I didn't run. Not because I was brave. Let's not insult everybody involved. I didn't run because there were 4 black SUVs, too many men with shoulders made for ruining lives, and Eric Anderson standing close enough that I could smell his expensive cologne and the cold thread underneath it. Also, I had already agreed to be kidnapped. Running after that felt tacky. The man holding the SUV door waited like he had all evening. Maybe he did. Men like Eric probably scheduled kidnappings between board meetings and ruining somebody's credit score. I slid into the back seat. The leather was cold against the backs of my thighs, and the inside smelled like money, gun oil, and something faintly woodsy. Eric got in beside me without asking if I wanted company. Of course he did. The door shut, sealing us inside. For a second, I could still see my mother through the tinted glass. She stood in the doorway with one hand pressed to her mouth, small, broken, alive. Then the SUV pulled away. I didn't look back again. Eric sat beside me like this was a normal Tuesday, one hand resting on his thigh, the other near his phone. No fidgeting, no guilt. No visible concern that he had just taken a woman from her house because her father was a worthless bastard with gambling habits and the morals of spoiled milk. I watched the neighborhood slip past the window. Kids on bikes, a man watering dead grass, Miss Lottie from 2 houses down, pretending she wasn't staring through her blinds, like she didn't owe me 3 borrowed Tupperware containers. My phone buzzed in my purse. I reached for it. Eric said, "You can text your mother, not the police." I paused. "You think I need your permission?" No, I think you need the truth before you make a useless choice. I pulled my phone out anyway. And calling 911 is useless because... The man in the front passenger seat glanced back. He had short dark hair, a square jaw, and the personality of a locked door. Eric didn't bother looking at him. Because by the time anyone finds a record of your call, you'll be somewhere they can't reach. That's comforting. It wasn't meant to be. I typed one message to my mother. Lock the door. Do not let him in. I mean it. The little bubble sat there for too long before finally saying delivered. My chest loosened by half an inch. Then I texted Nurse Carla. If anyone comes asking about Malik who isn't me, call me first. Don't let Raymond in. Please. I waited until that one delivered too. Eric watched me without comment. I hated that more than if he'd snatched the phone out of my hand. So what now? I asked. You take me to some penthouse? Put me in a glass box? And feed me grapes while you laugh at my daddy's debt? His mouth curved slightly. You think highly of yourself. I think lowly of men. Saves time. The driver made a quiet sound. Maybe a cough. Maybe survival. Eric's eyes stayed on me. You'll be taken to my home. Your home, I repeated. Romantic. You'll have a room. Prison cell with curtains? A room. Do I get a little bowl with my name on it too, or should I eat off the floor to make the toy thing official? This time the man in the passenger seat did smile. Eric noticed. The smile died immediately. Good. So the scary billionaire came with employee benefits and emotional constipation. The city fell away behind us. Streetlights thinned, gas stations became fields, and long stretches of trees pressing close against the road. The sky turned bruised purple, the last of the sun burning out behind the highway. We drove for almost an hour. No one explained shit. That gave me plenty of time to think, which was rude. I thought about Malik's unmoving hand, my mother's face, Raymond's fear, Eric's voice when he said he knew where my brother was. That part kept scraping at me. People with money could find anything. Medical records, addresses, old mistakes. Weak spots? Malik wasn't a weak spot. He was the only clean piece of me left. Eventually, the SUV turned off the main road onto a narrower one lined with dark trees. A sign warned private property, no trespassing. A second sign promised prosecution. A third didn't have words, just cameras mounted high on black poles, and a gate that looked less like an entrance and more like a government secret. The gate opened before we reached it. Of course, I muttered. Because Dracula has upgraded security. Eric looked out the window. You talk when you're nervous. I talk when I'm awake. You're nervous. I'm kidnapped. By choice, according to you. Temporarily. Don't get attached. His gaze moved to me then, slow and heavy. Too late. Something uncomfortable kicked low in my stomach. Not desire. Absolutely not. I wasn't stupid enough to catch feelings in a luxury SUV with a man who collected women like unpaid invoices. It was survival instinct. Probably. The private road curved through dense forest. The trees stood tall and close together, their branches swallowing the remaining light. Every few yards I spotted more cameras, hidden lights, men stationed in dark clothes. Some stood openly. Others were half covered by trees, too still to be casual. Predators pretending to be employees. Finally, the house appeared. No, not house. That word was disrespectful. The place rose from the forest in dark stone and glass, massive and sharp-edged, with warm lights glowing in tall windows. It wasn't one of those white-columned mansions trying to look like old money. This thing looked built to survive storms, lawsuits, and enemy attacks. Wide steps led to double doors. There were garages off to one side, several smaller houses farther back near the tree line, and beyond them, open land fading into woods. People were everywhere. Not hundreds, but enough to make the place feel alive. Men crossing the driveway with boxes. Kids chasing each other near a fenced play area. A pregnant woman sitting on a bench with her hands on her belly while some man knelt in front of her, talking to the bump like it owed him answers. I stared. "How many people live here?" "Enough," Eric said. "That is not a number." "It is tonight." The SUV stopped. My door opened. I stepped out, and every conversation within 20 feet seemed to shift. Not stop completely, just bend toward me. People looked. Not the way neighbors looked when police cars showed up. Not even the way men looked when they wanted something. They looked like I smelled strange. I lifted my chin. If I was going to be murdered by rich people, I refused to do it hunched over. Eric came around the SUV and walked beside me up the steps. Again, he didn't touch me. Again, everyone acted like he didn't need to. Inside the house was all high ceilings, dark floors, leather furniture, warm lights, and rooms wide enough to make my entire childhood home feel like a closet with trauma. Voices echoed from somewhere deeper inside. Laughter, a baby crying. Music low under the noise. Then the smell hit me. Food. Real food. Not microwave noodles. Not vending machine chips from the hospital. Not the sad drive-through burger I sometimes bought and ate in my car while pretending I wasn't broke. This was meat and butter and garlic and smoke. My stomach betrayed me with a loud, ugly twist. Eric heard it. Of course he did. I glared at him before he could comment. "Say one word and I'll bite you." His eyes dropped to my mouth. "You'd regret that." "Not if you taste expensive." A man passed us carrying a tray stacked with bread. He looked between us, then wisely kept moving. Eric led me through a large sitting room and into the biggest kitchen I had ever seen in person. The kind of kitchen a celebrity chef would cry in. Long counters, 2 huge refrigerators, wide stoves, copper pans hanging overhead. People moved through it like controlled chaos. A woman with a round pregnant belly stood at the center of it all, pointing a wooden spoon like a weapon. "No, put the ribs there. Not there, Jason. Are you blind? Or just committed to pissing me off? And somebody give Rachel more potatoes before she starts chewing on the table." Rachel, apparently, was another pregnant woman sitting at a long island with a plate big enough to feed a construction crew. Beside her, a man leaned down and kissed her mouth with absolutely no shame. Full kiss, hand on her neck. The kind of kiss that said everybody else could go blind for all he cared. I looked away and found another couple kissing near the pantry, then another by the back door. A child ran past with a cookie in each hand. A shirtless man followed him, laughing. Behind him, a woman smacked his bare chest and told him to put on clothes before Rebecca killed him. I stopped walking. "Did you kidnap me into a rich cult?" Several heads turned. The pregnant woman with the spoon looked me over. Her gaze wasn't mean, but it was sharp enough to peel fruit. Eric said, "Jaynayah Cross, this is Rebecca Turner. Rebecca runs the kitchen." Rebecca's eyes dropped to my purse, my shoes, my face. "You eat?" "I've been known to." That wasn't my question. "I'm not hungry." My stomach made me a liar with another rude sound. Rebecca snorted. "Sit down before you embarrass yourself further." "I'm not sitting anywhere until somebody explains why half this house is pregnant, and the other half is kissing like oxygen got canceled." The room went silent for one beautiful second. Then someone laughed. Not Eric. A man near the counter, tall, sandy-haired, with trouble written all over his grin. "She's funny." Eric didn't look at him. "Caleb." The man lifted both hands and turned back to the tray he was stealing from. Rebecca put a plate together anyway. Ribs, macaroni, greens, cornbread, roasted potatoes. She set it on the counter in front of me like a challenge. I hated that I wanted it. I hated even more that Eric noticed. "You'll have food," he said. "Clothes. Your own room. No one will harm you if you follow the rules." I looked at him. I only follow rules I like. His expression did not change, but something in his eyes sharpened. "You'll learn." Those 2 words landed harder than they should have. Maybe because everyone in the kitchen heard them and went quiet again. Maybe because for 1 second I remembered my mother in the yard whispering, "Run." A new man stepped into the kitchen doorway. The same locked door personality from the SUV. Eric finally gave him a name. Daniel Reed, he said. He handles security. If I'm not available, you listen to him. I don't listen to men who look like they report emotions to HR. Daniel stared at me. Caleb choked on something behind us. Rebecca muttered, Lord, she's going to be fun. Eric's mouth almost moved. Almost. Daniel will show you upstairs, Eric said. I'm done with tours. For tonight. And if I refuse, Eric stepped closer. Not enough to touch. Enough to remind me the room belonged to him before I ever walked into it. Then I carry you. My pulse did something humiliating. I smiled because smiling was cheaper than panic. You try that and I'll make this kitchen a crime scene. Rebecca slid the plate closer to me. Eat first, commit felonies later. Against my better judgment, I picked up the cornbread. It was warm. I took one bite and immediately resented everyone involved. Because it was delicious. Eric watched me swallow. Good night, Jaynayah. Go to hell, Eric. His eyes warmed by a fraction. Eventually. Then he left. Not dramatically. No threats. No final glance. He simply walked out, and the whole damn house seemed to breathe differently once he was gone. Daniel took me upstairs to a bedroom larger than the living room I grew up in. Dark wood bed, thick rug, tall windows. A private bathroom with a tub big enough to drown my problems in. Someone had stocked the dresser with folded clothes in my size, which was creepy as fuck no matter how soft the fabric looked. There's a phone by the bed, Daniel said. It calls inside the house. Do not leave this floor tonight. Because I'll get lost? Because you'll get hurt. By who? His eyes held mine. By what? Then he shut the door. I stood there for a long time, listening to the unfamiliar sounds of the house. Distant laughter, footsteps, a low shout outside. Music drifting up from below. My phone had one bar, then none. Perfect. I sat on the bed, stood up, checked the bathroom, opened drawers, found pajamas I did not ask for, refused to change out of spite, sat again. Eventually the house quieted. Not fully. Never fully. There were still noises outside. Movement. Voices. A woman laughing low. A man answering in a tone that made it very clear everybody here needed hobbies. I walked to the window. The yard below was washed silver by moonlight and security lights. A few people stood near the grass at the edge of the trees. One woman stepped away from the group. She was tall, curvy, brown-haired, wearing jeans and a tank top. Then she pulled the tank top over her head. I blinked. Oh, so it is a sex cult. The jeans went next. She stood naked in the yard like that was normal, like mosquitoes and shame didn't exist. Then she dropped to her hands and knees. My breath caught. Her spine arched. Her body jerked. Something cracked loud enough for me to hear through the glass. I stopped breathing. Her skin seemed to ripple, stretch, split wrong beneath the moonlight. Dark fur pushed over her shoulders. Her hands twisted against the grass, fingers shortening, nails becoming claws. Her jaw lengthened, bones shifting with wet, brutal pops. No, 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 no. My hand flew to the window frame. Where a woman had been seconds ago, something massive stood in the yard. A wolf. Not a dog, not a trick, not a costume. A wolf bigger than any wolf had the right to be. Its head lifting slowly toward my window. Its eyes found mine, and then it growled. The growl came through the glass. Not against it, through it. It rolled into the room and sank straight into my bones like the window was open, like the thing outside had reached inside my chest and plucked a string I didn't know I had. I backed away so fast my heel caught the rug. Nope. The wolf below didn't move. It stood in the grass where a naked woman had been less than a minute ago, massive and wrong under the moonlight. Its shoulders were too high, its head too broad. Its paws looked big enough to cave in a man's ribs. Dark fur rippled over muscle as it stared up at my window with eyes that looked disturbingly intelligent. That was the worst part. Not the claws, not the teeth. not the fact that bones had cracked loud enough for me to hear from upstairs. The worst part was the way it looked at me, like it knew exactly what I was. Human. Soft. Slow. A snack with opinions. I slapped a hand over my mouth because a scream was climbing my throat, and I refused to give the rich cult downstairs the satisfaction. My heart hammered so hard it made my ears ring. "Okay," I whispered through my fingers. "Okay, Jaynayah. Possibilities." Possibility 1. I had finally lost my damn mind. Honestly, fair. Between Malik's hospital room, Raymond selling me like a couch on Facebook Marketplace, and Eric Anderson kidnapping me with cheekbones sharp enough to be a misdemeanor, a breakdown felt overdue. Possibility 2. Rebecca put something in the cornbread. Which would be rude because that cornbread was good as hell. Possibility 3. The woman downstairs had actually turned into a giant wolf, and I was trapped in a house full of people who thought that was a normal evening activity. My gaze slid back to the window. Another figure stepped into the yard. A man this time. Broad shoulders, dark hair, laughing at something somebody said off to the side. He pulled his shirt over his head like he was about to jump into a pool, not commit crimes against biology. I whispered, "Don't you fucking do it." He did it. Shoes off, pants next. I turned away on instinct because, kidnapped or not, I had not consented to random dick in the moonlight. Then he dropped forward, and the laugh became a grunt, then a snarl. His back bowed, his spine shifted under his skin. Something popped, loud, wet. My stomach lurched. I looked anyway, because apparently I was stupid. Fur burst over him, lighter than the first wolf's. His hands twisted into paws, his jaw pushed out. In seconds, a second wolf stood beside the first, bigger than a car hood, shaking itself like the whole thing had been inconvenient, but not surprising. The two wolves bumped shoulders, like coworkers clocking out. Oh, hell no. I yanked the curtains shut. For 2 seconds, darkness fixed everything. Then something howled outside. The sound tore through the house and turned my knees into poor suggestions. I grabbed my purse because if I was getting eaten by a werewolf, I wanted my lip gloss nearby for dignity. My phone still had no signal. Of course, billionaire kidnappers always had privacy, security, and apparently supernatural wildlife, but not a single bar of service. I went to the door and pressed my ear against it. Quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that meant people knew things you didn't. Daniel had told me not to leave this floor tonight. Daniel could kiss my ass. I opened the door and stepped into the hallway. The lights were low, warm along the walls, throwing gold across framed photographs and polished wood floors. Somewhere downstairs, voices murmured. A baby fussed once, then quieted. Outside, another growl rumbled deep enough to vibrate under my feet. I started walking. Then something scraped below. Claws. I stopped. A shadow moved at the far end of the hallway near the stairs. My body chose that moment to remember every horror movie ever made, and every black woman who survived by minding her business. My brain, however, was a dick. I ran. Not far. Maybe 5 steps. Then I slammed into a wall wearing a black shirt. Hands caught my upper arms before I bounced back and embarrassed myself further. Hard hands, warm, steady. I looked up. Eric Anderson stared down at me with the calmest face I had ever wanted to punch. "What did you give me?" I demanded. His brow lowered a fraction. "Nothing." "Wrong answer. Try again." "You're shaking." "I just watched a woman turn into a wolf on your lawn. Of course I'm shaking. My body has common sense even if my mouth doesn't." His grip eased but didn't leave me. "You saw Rebecca's cousin shift." "I don't care if I saw Jesus shift. Explain it." His eyes stayed on mine, too controlled, too steady. "Werewolves exist." I waited for the punchline. None came. I laughed once. No humor in it. "No." "Yes." "No, Eric." "Yes, Jaynayah. People do not turn into wolves. Humans don't." The words landed wrong. slow, heavy. Like furniture being dragged across the floor inside my head. My gaze moved over him before I could stop it. His face, his shoulders, his hands on me. Too still, too strong, too comfortable in a house full of monsters. You're one of them. Yes, my stomach dipped. I took a step back, and this time he let me. So, what is this? A pack? A den? Do y'all file taxes under dog grooming? His mouth twitched like it wanted to smile and knew better. Blackridge Pack. Pack. I rubbed both hands over my face. Great. Perfect. My father sold me to a billionaire werewolf gang. Your father owed a debt to an alpha? I froze. Alpha. The word should have sounded ridiculous. It should have made me roll my eyes and ask if he also had a leather jacket with the word dominant stitched on the back, but the hallway seemed to tighten around it. Outside, the wolves went silent. Downstairs, somebody stopped talking. Eric didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. You ran, he said. I moved quickly with emotion. Do not run from wolves. I wasn't running from wolves. I was running from whatever fresh bullshit your house is doing. Running wakes the chase instinct. My mouth opened. Nothing smart came out, because at the far end of the hallway, something appeared at the top of the stairs. A gray wolf. Huge. Not as dark as the one from the yard. Its fur was silver gray and thick around the neck, its ears upright, its yellow eyes locked on me with bright, hungry interest. Its nails clicked softly against the wood as it took one step forward. My spine hit Eric's chest. So much for personal space. The wolf's nose lifted. It sniffed the air. Me. I felt it like fingers crawling over my skin. Tell your dog he's looking at me like I'm lunch, I whispered. That isn't a dog. I know that, asshole. The wolf took another step. Eric's hand settled at my waist. Not possessive exactly, not gentle either. A barrier, a warning. His voice changed. Caleb. One word. The gray wolf stopped like a bullet had hit the floor in front of him. No bark, no snarl, no hesitation. Just stopped. His ears angled back. Eric didn't move. Out. The wolf lowered its head. Then it turned and padded back down the stairs, disappearing into the shadows. I stood there breathing like I'd run miles. Eric's palm still warm at my waist. Every nerve in my body had woken up and started screaming separate instructions. Kick him. Hide. Ask questions. Don't show fear. Get Malik. Get out. I forced myself to step away from him. That was Caleb? I asked. Yes. The bread thief? Yes. I pointed toward the stairs with a shaking finger. That man just looked at me like a steak with lip gloss. He wouldn't hurt you. Bullshit. He thought about it. Eric studied me for a moment. Yes. I hated that answer, because it was honest. You should have told me, I said. You wouldn't have believed me. You didn't give me the chance. You needed to see it. I needed a warning, a pamphlet, a consent form, a damn priest. His eyes sharpened. What you need is to listen when I tell you how to survive here. Anger rose fast because fear always pissed me off when it couldn't find anywhere else to go. I didn't ask to be here. No, he said. You bargained to be here. That is not the same thing. It is in my world. Then your world is fucked. Something flashed in his eyes. Gold. Not a reflection. Not the hallway lights. Gold. My words died in my throat. For the first time since I met him, Eric Anderson looked less like a man in control and more like something wearing control because it chose to. He glanced away from me, down the hall, then toward the ceiling like he was listening to someone I couldn't hear. I snapped my fingers in front of his face before I could rethink it. Hey, don't buffer at me. That's rude. His gaze returned to mine slowly. That, he said, voice low, was unwise. I'm having a rough night. You're human. Another stunning diagnosis. You cannot hear the pack when they speak. My eyebrows drew together. Who is speaking? All of them. A chill dragged down my back. The house no longer felt quiet. It felt crowded with invisible conversation, messages passing over and around me while I stood deaf in the middle of it. I hate this place, I said. You've been here one night. Efficient, right? Eric looked toward the stairs again. Come. No. He started walking. I stayed still for exactly 3 seconds. Then another howl rose outside, closer than before, and my pride developed mobility issues. I followed him downstairs. People watched us from doorways and rooms as we passed. Not openly hostile, not friendly either. Curious, tense, whispering without moving their mouths. I caught Rebecca near the kitchen entrance, one hand resting on her round belly, wooden spoon still in the other like she might beat a wolf with it if necessary. We stepped onto the back porch. The night air smelled like cut grass, smoke, and animals. Wolves gathered at the edge of the yard. Some sat, some stood. A few people lingered naked or half-dressed near storage bins full of clothes, completely unbothered by the fact that the world had lost its damn mind. Eric stopped beside me. If you're going to stay in Blackridge, he said, you'll learn what I am from me, not through a window. I'm not staying. His gaze slid to me. Tonight, you are. Before I could answer, he stepped off the porch into the grass. The wolves lowered their heads. All of them. My throat went dry. Eric removed his jacket and handed it to Daniel, who had appeared like bad news in human form. Then Eric unbuttoned his shirt. Slow, unhurried. Like he had all the time in the world and every eye belonged to him. The shirt dropped. Moonlight cut over his chest, over hard muscle and old scars that silvered across his ribs and shoulder. I looked away for half a second because I was kidnapped, not blind, and attraction at a time like this felt personally disrespectful. Then I heard the first crack. My head snapped back. Eric's body bent forward. His hands hit the grass. Another crack tore through the night. Black fur spilled over his skin. His spine shifted. His shoulders widened. His fingers clawed into the earth as his bones broke and rebuilt themselves into something larger, darker, impossible. The pack stayed silent. So did I. Eric Anderson disappeared in front of me, and in his place a massive black wolf rose from the grass, gold eyes fixed on mine as a deep red tail unfurled behind him, like it had been dipped in blood. The wolf did not look real. That was my first thought, which was stupid because reality had already packed a bag and left me standing barefoot in Crazy Town. Still, my brain kept trying to reject him. It stared at the giant black wolf in the grass and said, "No, thank you. Return to sender." Eric's wolf was enormous. Not big like a dog somebody overfed and called a baby. Not big like the wolves in nature documentaries. He was built like something ancient had gotten bored and decided regular predators needed management. His shoulders rose nearly as high as my chest, thick with black fur that swallowed the moonlight. His paws pressed into the grass like they had weight enough to dent the earth. And his eyes, gold, bright, focused, too intelligent. He looked at me like Eric looked at me, like he was amused, like he knew secrets, like he had already decided what I was and was waiting to see if I'd figure it out too. Then his tail moved. Deep red, not brown, not auburn. Red. Dark and rich, like blood in low light or fire trapped under fur. It swayed once behind him, slow as a warning. My mouth went dry. "Absolutely not," I whispered. Nobody answered, because everyone else was busy lowering their heads. Wolves, people, half-naked men, women holding clothes against their chests. Daniel standing beside the porch with Eric's shirt over one arm. Even Caleb's gray wolf, the same giant asshole who'd looked at me like a midnight snack, had dropped his head and flattened his ears. The yard had gone silent in a way I felt under my skin. They weren't scared. Not exactly. They were acknowledging him. The word came back to me from the hallway. Alpha. Eric's wolf took one step toward me. My body forgot all its feminist literature and locked up. Every old survival instinct I had learned in Raymond Cross's house screamed at once. Don't move too fast. Don't look away. Don't make it worse. Don't give him your throat. Don't show him your hands are shaking. The problem was, my hands were absolutely shaking. I curled my fingers against palms. His nose lifted. He could smell it. Of course he could smell it, because why wouldn't Satan's security dog come with emotional Wi-Fi? Eric's wolf stopped at the bottom of the porch steps, close enough that if he lunged, I would become a news story no one could explain. His head tilted slightly. That did something unpleasant to me. Not fear. Well, yes, fear. A lot of fear. A responsible amount of fear. The kind of fear that made my ancestors sit up and say, "Girl, if you don't get inside." But beneath that was something worse. Fascination. He was terrifying. He was also beautiful. The kind of beautiful that didn't ask permission. The kind that made you angry because you couldn't pretend not to see it. His black fur moved in the night breeze. His red tail dragged my attention again and again, strange and impossible, like the whole world had been black and gray until someone bled color across him. I hated it. I hated him. I hated that my first thought after he could eat me was, I wonder what his fur feels like. Don't look at me like that, I said. His ears flicked. Caleb made a sound suspiciously close to a wolf laugh. Eric's gold eyes cut toward him. Caleb shut the hell up. Good. At least somebody in this yard had sense. Then the black wolf turned away from me. I breathed for the first time in what felt like 10 years. His body folded. That was the only word for it. Folded and broke and rebuilt itself while I stood there watching, horrified all over again. Bones cracked wetly under fur. Muscle rippled. The red tail vanished last, shrinking into skin and shadow. Black fur pulled back like smoke being swallowed. A man rose from the grass. Naked. Completely, aggressively naked. Eric Anderson stood in the yard under the moonlight like clothes were a hobby other people had. Broad shoulders, scarred chest, tight abdomen, thick thighs. And yes, his dick was out because apparently my introduction to Werewolf Society came with unsolicited anatomy. I looked up at the sky. God, if you're still taking requests, I would like a new planet. No one moved. Eric walked toward the porch, unbothered by the fact that every inch of him was on display. Daniel handed him his pants without looking at me. Very professional. Very used to this bullshit. I was not. Eric stepped into the pants, zipped them, and only then looked at me. You're quiet, I pointed at him. You just turned from a giant murder wolf into a naked billionaire on your lawn. Give me a second to update my files. His mouth curved. Barely. Updated? No, I need a chair. There's one behind you. I grabbed it, then immediately lifted it like a weapon. Daniel took one step forward. Eric raised 2 fingers without looking at him. Daniel stopped. I noticed that. Even half-dressed, even barefoot on the grass, Eric made men freeze with less effort than most people use to change the channel. I hated noticing things. Eric's gaze dropped to the chair in my hands. Planning to hit me? Planning? No. Improvising? Strong, maybe. That chair cost more than your car. My car has character. Your car has a warning light that has been on for 6 months. My grip tightened. You ran a report on my Honda? I ran a report on you. Creepy. Necessary. Kidnappers always say shit like that. His eyes sharpened, but he didn't deny it. The yard remained too quiet. People were watching us like this was a show, like the human might throw furniture at the alpha, and they all wanted to see if I died creatively. I set the chair down before my arms got tired and made me look weak. Inside, I said. Eric lifted an eyebrow. I need answers, and I'm not getting them out here with everybody's balls and baby bumps in attendance. A woman near the clothing bin snorted. Rebecca's voice called from somewhere behind the door. I heard that. Good, I called back. Then put clothes on your people. Eric stepped onto the porch, still shirtless, still too calm. Come. That word again, like he expected obedience to fall out of the sky. I went inside because I wanted answers, not because he told me to. Important distinction. He led me through the back entrance into a sitting room with dark leather furniture, a low table, shelves of books, and a fireplace that wasn't lit because August already felt like hell's mouth. Daniel followed, then stopped by the door. Caleb appeared in human form a minute later, wearing sweatpants and no shirt, hair damp, grin entirely too alive for somebody who had recently been a wolf. I pointed at him. You. Caleb blinked. Me? You looked at me like food. He scratched the back of his neck. To be fair, you ran. I ran because people were turning into wolves. Yeah, but you smelled scared. I stared at him. He winced. That sounded worse out loud. Caleb, Eric said. Caleb immediately straightened. I'm going. Stay close. The humor fell off Caleb's face. Yes, Alpha. There it was again. Not Eric, not boss, not sir. Alpha. Daniel closed the door, leaving me with Eric and too many questions. Eric moved to a cabinet, pulled out a folded black shirt, and put it on. A tragedy for my eyes, and a blessing for my ability to focus. I crossed my arms. Rules. Now. He looked at me like he'd been expecting the demand. Do not run from wolves. Already heard that one. Still stupid. It is the difference between being watched and being chased. My mouth shut. He continued. Do not interrupt a pack command. How will I know it's a pack command? If every wolf in the room goes still, stop talking. I huffed. So when everyone starts buffering. His gaze narrowed slightly. What y'all do? Everybody gets quiet and stares into space like the Wi-Fi dropped. Mind link, he said. Pretentious. Useful. Annoying to the only person who can't hear it. Something moved across his face too quickly for me to name. Yes. That answer was softer than the rest, and I didn't like it. He went on. Do not step between fighting wolves. I wasn't planning to referee the murder dogs. Good. Don't assume smiling wolves are safe. My mind flashed to Caleb's grin. That feels aimed. It is. From beyond the door, Caleb said, Rude. Eric ignored him. Do not wander into the woods alone. Because I'll get lost? Because the woods know you're human before you do. I hated that sentence. I hated it a lot. The woods don't know shit. The wolves in them do. A cold line traced my spine. Outside, something howled in the distance. Not close, not far enough. Eric watched me process it, and I wanted to slap the patience off his expensive face. Anything else, Alpha Anderson? His eyes flashed gold at the title. Not all the way, just enough to remind me the wolf was not gone. It was wearing a shirt now. Do not challenge me unless you mean it. I laughed before I could stop myself. You're serious. Always. That's sad. That's survival. You say that like I don't know how to survive. For the first time, his expression shifted. Not soft, never soft, but something quieter. I know exactly how much you've survived. My anger tripped over itself. For 1 second, Raymond's house pressed against my back. My mother crying in the yard. Malik's still hand in mine. Holes in walls, doors slamming. Men deciding fear was the same thing as respect. I lifted my chin because that was easier than letting him see anything else. Then you should know I don't do well with rules. You'll learn these. And if I don't? He stepped closer. The room seemed to shrink with him in it. He didn't touch me. He didn't have to. His presence pressed against my skin, warm and heavy, and I hated that my body noticed him before my pride could slap it. His voice dropped. Then I save you from the consequences. His eyes held mine. Until I get tired of saving you. A shiver tried to move through me. I murdered it on principle. That's supposed to scare me? Yes. Work harder. That almost smile returned. Then the door behind me opened. A woman stood there, early 30s maybe, with brown skin, dark hair pulled back in a low ponytail, and eyes that had seen enough bullshit to stop being impressed by it. She wore black jeans, boots, and a fitted green shirt. No fear in her face, no warmth either. Her gaze moved from Eric to me. "He saved us too," she said. Her mouth tightened. "That does not mean we were free." The woman in the doorway didn't look like a prisoner. That annoyed me. Not because I wanted her to be one. I wasn't that damaged. But after being told I was a debt, a toy, and a temporary resident of werewolf rich people hell, I had started building a picture in my head. Dark rooms, crying women, maybe dramatic chains, because men with too much money loved theatrics almost as much as they loved pretending control was a personality. But this woman stood there with a badge clipped to her belt, a tablet tucked under one arm, and the exhausted confidence of somebody who knew where the bodies were buried because she helped organize the files. Eric looked at her. Ashley. So this was Ashley Parker. Her gaze stayed on me. "You told her the rules?" "Some. That means you told her the rules that make you sound reasonable." "I'm still in the room," Eric said. "I noticed." Daniel made a low sound by the door. Not quite warning, but warning adjacent. Ashley ignored him. I liked her immediately against my better judgment. Eric's eyes narrowed slightly. "Do not confuse her." Ashley gave him a dry look. "You brought a human woman into Blackridge after collecting her from an abusive father and calling her your toy. Confusion is already seated at the table." I pointed at her. "Thank you. Finally, somebody here with a working brain." Eric's attention slid to me. "Careful. Don't growl at me. I just learned that might not be a metaphor." His mouth twitched. Ashley did not smile. "Come with me." I blinked. "Excuse me?" "You wanted answers. You won't get all of them from him." Eric's expression went cold enough to frost the furniture. Ashley still didn't lower her eyes. A strange tension filled the sitting room. Not loud, not dramatic. Just pressure, like everyone's bones had remembered who stood closest to power. Finally, Eric said, "Daniel goes with you." "No," Ashley said. Daniel's eyebrows lifted. I looked between them. "Is she allowed to say no to you?" "No," Eric answered. "Yes," Ashley said at the same time. "Great. Werewolf democracy. Very organized." Eric's gaze turned fully golden for half a second. Ashley's shoulders tightened, but she stood there anyway. Then Eric looked at me. "Do not leave the main house without permission." "There you go with that permission shit again." "And do not mistake information for safety." I opened my mouth. He stepped closer and whatever joke I had loaded got caught behind my teeth. His voice lowered. "If you get frightened, angry, or reckless, find me." That should not have sounded protective. It definitely should not have done anything warm beneath my ribs. So naturally, I ruined it. "If I get frightened, angry, or reckless, you'll know because something expensive will be broken." Eric studied me for one dangerous second. Then he walked out. Daniel followed, but not before giving Ashley a look that promised an argument later. The door shut behind them, and suddenly the room felt bigger. Air came back into my lungs. Ashley watched me notice. "He does that," she said. "What? Sucks oxygen out of rooms like a billionaire vacuum? Owns space." I hated how accurate that was. Ashley turned and started down the hall. I followed because curiosity was one of my worst habits, right after sarcasm and falling asleep with mascara on. The main house had not gotten less ridiculous since last night. We passed a large dining room with a table long enough to host a peace treaty. 2 kids were crawling under it while a tired-looking man tried to negotiate with them using slices of bacon. In another room, a pregnant woman slept sideways across a couch, while her mate sat on the floor rubbing her swollen feet like his life depended on it. A couple kissed near the stairs, slowly, deeply. No shame. Hands everywhere but under clothes, barely. I stared. Ashley followed my gaze. "You'll get used to it." "No, I won't. I'm committed to being judgmental. Wolves are physical. So are humans. We just usually don't tongue-fuck each other beside decorative lamps. That one earned the smallest smile. Progress. Ashley took me to a security room tucked near the back of the house. It was full of screens showing the gate, the driveway, forest trails, garages, the training grounds, and different entrances around the estate. A wall map displayed Blackridge territory, marked with neat red and blue lines. 2 men sat at consoles, but they stood when Ashley entered. Not because she was Eric, because she mattered. That surprised me too. Ashley noticed because of course she did. Everybody here noticed too much. I work security records, she said. Schedules, boundary alerts, debt documentation, pack movement, outside threats. Debt documentation, I repeated. Sounds classy when you make kidnapping an admin task. Her eyes met mine. That's what you want to know about. I want to know a lot of things, like whether everyone here is allergic to regular conversation. But sure, let's start with the women Eric collects. The 2 men at the consoles suddenly became very interested in their screens. Ashley leaned against the edge of a desk. My stepfather owed Eric money, protection fees, and blood restitution after he helped hide a rogue who killed 2 Blackridge people. My mouth went dry. Blood restitution sounded like a phrase nobody should say before breakfast. He offered me, Ashley continued, like I was jewelry. Eric accepted. And you're just fine with that? Her face hardened. No. Good. That answer I understood. I expected him to lock me in a room, she said. I expected him to hurt me. I expected him to take what men like my stepfather always act like women are for. My stomach tightened. But he didn't. I watched her carefully. Didn't what? Ashley did not blink. He didn't fuck me. Didn't touch me. Didn't make me perform gratitude because he could have been worse. The bluntness hit harder than softness would have. He gave me a room, medical care, clothes, money in an account under my name, and 3 choices after the debt was settled. Leave Blackridge with protection for 6 months. Stay and work. Or stay without working until I decided what I wanted. I tried to force that into the Eric-shaped box in my head. It didn't fit. That sounds almost decent, I said. It isn't decent. He still took me. He still used my stepfather's fear. He still enjoyed making him beg. Her mouth curved without humor, and I enjoyed watching. That, unfortunately, I understood too. Ashley's voice quieted. He may not be the monster they say he is, but do not mistake that for softness. Before I could answer, a sharp thud came from the screens. One of the monitors showed the training grounds outside. A woman in black workout clothes had just slammed a man twice her size onto his back. He stayed down, laughing and wheezing. Ashley glanced at the screen. That's Lauren. Lauren Hill did not look like anyone's victim either. By the time Ashley led me outside to the training grounds, Lauren had already put the man down again and was standing over him with 1 foot on his chest. Tap next time, she said. I'm not your mother. I won't guess when you're done. The man tapped the ground. Lauren stepped off him and looked at me. Her eyes were light brown, cool, assessing. Her dark blonde hair was braided tight against her scalp, sweat shining at her temples. She had a scar along her jaw, and the kind of posture that said affection would need to make an appointment. So, this is the human, she said. Everybody keeps saying that like I'm a rare disease. Lauren's gaze traveled over me, not rude exactly, but not friendly. You smell loud. I moisturize. Ashley sighed. Lauren. What? She does. I looked at Ashley. Do all of you smell feelings? Yes. Great. Fantastic. Love being emotionally naked around strangers. Lauren pulled a towel from a bench and wiped her hands. Ashley told you the pretty version? Ashley's jaw tightened. I told her mine. There are no pretty versions. Lauren looked at me again. My father traded me to keep his land. Eric took the deal, broke my father's hand, seized the land anyway, and left him alive so he could remember the price. I waited. Lauren smiled. Cold. I stayed because outside Blackridge, men kept thinking I was still tradable. Something inside me shifted. Not sympathy exactly, something sharper. recognition wearing different clothes. "So you're free?" I asked. Lauren laughed once. "Free is a word powerful men let you use when it makes them sound merciful." Ashley's expression darkened. "That's not fair." "No," Lauren said. "It's accurate." The two women stared at each other, and for a second the air prickled. Neither spoke, but something passed between them. That invisible werewolf group chat again. I snapped my fingers. No buffering around the human. It's rude. Ashley looked away first. Lauren's mouth curved. "You're funny." "I'm traumatized. The jokes are a symptom." She didn't laugh, but her eyes changed a little. "Then here's one symptom talking to another. Do not soften because Eric Anderson has limits. Limits are not kindness. They are boundaries around his pride." Ashley said, "Lauren." Lauren ignored her. "He does not have to touch you to own the room you breathe in." The words crawled over my skin, because I'd felt that already. In the SUV, in the hallway, on the porch, every time Eric got close and the world rearranged itself around him, I lifted my chin. "He doesn't own me." "No," Lauren said, "but he claimed you. In wolf law, that is close enough to make people careful." A strange chill settled in my stomach. "People like who?" Ashley and Lauren looked at each other again. This time, Ashley actually looked worried. I stepped closer. "What?" Ashley said. "There are things Eric should explain." "Eric explains things like he pays by the word." Lauren's eyes stayed on mine. "Then I'll make it simple." "Lauren, don't," Ashley warned. But Lauren did. "Eric has collected women before. Wolves. Women from packs, debts, bargains, punishments. But never a human." Her expression sharpened. "You are the first fully human woman Eric Anderson has ever brought onto Blackridge territory." My heartbeat kicked once, hard. I tried to smile. It didn't work. "Congratulations to me. Do I get a plaque?" Ashley's voice dropped. "Jaynayah." Lauren stepped closer, and for once, there was no cruelty in her face, only the truth. Humans are not supposed to know werewolves exist. The training grounds seemed to tilt beneath my feet. I looked from Lauren to Ashley, then back toward the massive house filled with kissing couples, pregnant women, children, monsters, food, laughter, and secrets. "So what does that make me?" Lauren's answer came quiet. "Evidence." Evidence was a word that stuck to me. It followed me back into the house. It sat on my shoulder while I pretended not to notice wolves staring too long. It crawled into bed with me that night and whispered ugly things every time the floor creaked or somebody laughed downstairs. I wasn't a guest. I wasn't even just Eric Anderson's toy, which was still high on my list of reasons to kick him in his rich, emotionally constipated throat. I was proof. Proof that humans could find out. Proof that Eric had broken some invisible werewolf rule. Proof that Raymond Cross had somehow reached into a world full of teeth and handed my name to it. By the next evening, I had decided two things. 1, I needed more information. 2, if I died at Blackridge, I was haunting everybody naked just to make the werewolves uncomfortable for once. Daniel knocked on my bedroom door at 6:30. By knocked, I mean he hit it twice like the door owed him money. I opened it wearing jeans, a black tank top, and the expression of a woman who had slept badly and was ready to make that everyone else's problem. Daniel looked at me once. "Barbecue starts in 30 minutes. I don't remember asking for the pack social calendar." "Alpha says you're attending. Alpha can say it into a cup and drink it." Daniel blinked. I smiled. "Tell him I said that exactly." Daniel's mouth twitched like he wanted to laugh and had signed a contract against joy. Rebecca made peach cobbler. My stomach betrayed me with a small, interested squeeze. I narrowed my eyes. That was manipulative. Yes. I respect it. He stepped back. "Stay in the open areas. Don't wander toward the trees. Don't pick fights." "Can I finish fights?" "No. Your rules are boring. Alive is boring." Spoken like a man who has never been stuck at a barbecue with monsters. Daniel gave me a look. You'd be surprised. The back lawn had transformed while I was upstairs pretending I wasn't trapped in supernatural witness protection. Smoke rolled across the grass in thick, delicious waves. 2 long grills were going near the patio, loaded with ribs, chicken, sausages, corn still in the husk, and something wrapped in foil that smelled illegal in at least 3 states. Tables sagged under bowls of macaroni, greens, potato salad, baked beans, rolls, fruit, and enough peach cobbler to make diabetes stand up and applaud. Music played from hidden speakers, low bass, old R&B mixed with newer songs somebody's auntie definitely hated. Kids tore across the grass barefoot, shrieking like tiny drunk demons. A little boy chased a girl with a water gun while a grown man yelled, "No spraying pregnant women unless you want to die." There were so many pregnant women. Too many. Everywhere I looked, somebody was round-bellied and glowing, or round-bellied, and threatening murder over a paper plate. One woman sat in a lawn chair with her feet in a plastic tub of ice water, while her mate fed her ribs by hand. Another stood near the food table arguing with Rebecca over whether she could have a 3rd helping of macaroni. Rebecca, heavily pregnant herself, held a serving spoon like a weapon. "You can have 3rds after Rachel gets 2nds. The woman gasped. Rachel already had 2nds. Rachel Bennett appeared behind her with a plate stacked high. "Don't involve me in your lies." Jordan Bennett, who I recognized from the dining room kissing patrol, came up behind Rachel and pressed his mouth to the side of her neck. She leaned back into him like that was normal. Like being worshipped beside collard greens was a regular Tuesday. I stopped walking. Caleb appeared beside me with a beer in one hand and a rib in the other. "You look overwhelmed." "I'm trying to figure out if people here have sex every day, or if pregnancy is in the drinking water." He grinned. "Both, depending who you ask." That was not comforting. It wasn't meant to be. Across the yard, Jordan kissed Rachel again. Longer this time. His hand curved around the bottom of her belly, possessive and gentle, while she smiled against his mouth. I looked away because it felt too intimate. Then I looked right at another couple pressed against a tree. The man had one hand braced above his mate's head and the other low on her hip. She was laughing into his mouth, fingers tangled in his hair. Nobody cared. Not one person told them to get a room. A kid ran past them with a ball, completely unbothered. "I hate this place," I muttered. Caleb tore meat off the rib with his teeth. "You say that a lot." "Because it keeps being true." "Plate? I can feed myself." "Not if Rebecca sees you standing there empty-handed." As if summoned by seasoning and pregnancy rage, Rebecca turned from the table. Her eyes locked onto me. "Oh, hell," I said. She pointed the spoon. "Human girl, come eat." Caleb leaned toward me. "Run." I glared. "You think you're funny." "I know I am." I walked over because I had learned enough about Rebecca Turner to know some battles were not worth the funeral. She loaded a plate until it weighed more than my purse. Ribs, chicken, corn, greens, macaroni, potatoes, 2 rolls, and a slice of cobbler balanced on the edge like she was testing physics. "I'm not eating all this," I said. "Yes, you are." "I have a normal human stomach." "You look underfed." "I look incredible." "You look like sarcasm and caffeine raised a child." Caleb choked on his beer. I took the plate. "I liked you better before you were accurate." Rebecca's smile was warm and sharp at the same time. "Sit before my feet start hurting and I get mean." "Start?" Her spoon lifted. I sat. The food was amazing. That pissed me off too. I didn't want Blackridge to have good macaroni. I wanted the place to be obviously evil, with gray walls and bad soup. I wanted villains who ate unseasoned chicken and called women females in public. Instead, these monsters had smoked ribs that fell off the bone, and greens good enough to make me reconsider several personal boundaries. Caleb dropped into the chair beside me. "So," I chewed slowly, "if I compliment this food, am I joining the cult?" "Pack." "Cult with dental benefits," he laughed. I gestured with my fork toward the couples, the kids, the wolves lounging at the edge of the light. The pregnant women guarding dessert like a Federal Reserve. Does anybody here have hobbies that don't end in pregnancy? Caleb's grin widened. We run, fight, eat, and mate. I stared at him. So no puzzles? Sometimes cards. For money? Dominance. Of course. Rachel waddled by close enough to hear and said, We also watch movies. Thank God. Usually while making out, she added. I put my fork down. I hope all of you know you're the reason humans invented doors. Rachel laughed and kept walking, Jordan's hand low on her back. For a little while it almost worked. The food, the music, Caleb's stupid commentary. Rebecca yelling at grown wolves like they were children. Kids chasing each other through smoke and firelight. Ashley sitting near the security team with a tablet on her lap, watching everything. Lauren leaning against a post farther off, arms folded, face unreadable, never fully relaxed. Almost. Then my gaze found Eric. He stood apart near the edge of the patio, dressed in black, expensive watch glinting when firelight caught his wrist. Daniel was beside him, talking quietly. A few pack members came up to Eric, said something, took his nod like a blessing, and returned to their families. Eric held a bottle of water. Everyone else drank beer, whiskey, wine, or something clear in mason jars that looked like it could strip paint. Eric didn't touch any of it. He watched. Not coldly. Not exactly. His eyes moved constantly. Children. Trees. Gates. Pregnant women. Grills. Caleb beside me. Me. Always me. I hated that I noticed when his attention returned. Hated the small, stupid awareness that moved over my skin like fingers. I stood before I could talk myself out of it and carried my plate over to him. Daniel saw me coming and sighed. Relax, I told him. I'm armed with potato salad. Eric looked down at my plate. Rebecca got to you. She attacked me with hospitality. That happens. I glanced at the water in his hand. You don't drink. No. Religious thing, health thing, secret billionaire liver made of gold, control thing. Of course it was. I rolled my eyes. You people do love that word. Eric's gaze stayed on the yard. Alcohol dulls instinct, slows reaction, loosens temper. You say that like a personal Yelp review. His mouth moved almost into a smile. An alpha cannot afford to lose control. I looked at him then. Really looked. He stood close enough to the laughter to belong, and far enough away to remain separate. His pack loved him, feared him, needed him. Every thread in this place seemed tied somewhere under his skin. And he stood alone with a bottle of water while everyone else let themselves be warm. The thought came without permission. Maybe he was lonely. I immediately hated it. Sympathy was a slippery little bitch. One minute you noticed a man was lonely. The next you forgot he kidnapped you and introduced you to werewolves through trauma-based immersion therapy. You look like you're at your own party waiting to be attacked, I said. I am. That sounds exhausting. It's necessary. That wasn't a denial. His eyes shifted to mine. For 1 second, the noise around us softened. The music, the kids, the laughter. Caleb shouting something obscene about somebody cheating at cards. Eric's attention pinned me in place, not harshly this time. Just fully. You notice too much, he said. I survived by noticing. Something dark moved behind his expression. I know. I did not like the way those 2 words landed. I wanted to ask what he knew. How much. Whether he had read about Malik's hospital bills and Raymond's arrests, and Tanya's emergency room visits like they were numbers in a report. Instead, a howl cut through the woods. Not from the yard, not from one of Eric's wolves. Farther out, low, strange, and sharp enough to slice the music in half. Every conversation stopped. The kids froze. Rebecca's spoon hit the table. Caleb stood so fast his chair tipped backward. All at once, every wolf turned toward the trees. Not one by one. Together. Like somebody had pulled the same string inside all of them. My skin prickled. Daniel's eyes went distant. Mind link. The invisible conversation slammed through the pack without me, leaving me standing deaf in the middle of sudden terror. Eric's face changed. No smile, no almost human softness. Nothing but alpha. His eyes burned gold. The woods answered with a second howl, closer this time. Then something moved between the trees. Not a person. Not exactly. The shadow slipped low through the dark beyond the firelight, too large to be a dog, too controlled to be some innocent animal wandering into a billionaire barbecue by mistake. The music had stopped. The laughter had died so completely it felt like somebody had put a hand over the whole night's mouth. I stood there with a paper plate in my hand, and cold dread sliding down my spine. Nobody screamed. That scared me more. The pack just moved. Rebecca grabbed 2 children by the shoulders and shoved them toward the house. Rachel's mate, Jordan, had his arm around her belly before I even blinked, backing her toward the patio doors. Chairs scraped, bottles tipped, plates hit tables. Half-eaten ribs were abandoned like everyone had suddenly remembered. Survival mattered more than seasoning. Caleb stepped in front of me. For once, he wasn't smiling. "Inside," he said. I looked past him toward the trees. "What is it?" "Not ours." My stomach dropped. That is not an answer I enjoy. "It's the only one you're getting right now." Another shape slid through the dark, then another. No, not multiple wolves, the same one moving through the trees with a strange broken rhythm, disappearing behind trunks and reappearing closer every time. Daniel was beside Eric, eyes distant. Mind link, of course. Invisible wolf group chat while I stood there holding macaroni like a dumbass. "Can someone say the emergency out loud for the human?" I snapped. Eric's head turned slightly. One look from him shut my mouth. Not because I wanted it to. My mouth loved danger. My mouth had been trying to get me killed since childhood, but Eric's face had changed into something older than language. No annoyance, no arrogance, no cold billionaire boredom. Alpha. "Children inside," he ordered. "Mothers to the safe room. Outer line, hold. No one breaks formation." The yard obeyed. Instantly. No debate, no confusion. No, but I left my drink over there. Werewolves who had been drunk, flirting, kissing, and arguing over cobbler 30 seconds ago became soldiers. Men and women stripped as they moved, yanking shirts over heads, kicking off shoes, shoving clothes into piles without shame or hesitation. Then bones started breaking. I would never get used to that sound. Cracks popped through the night, skin split, fur pushed through bodies that dropped to hands and knees. A blonde woman became a pale gray wolf near the grill. A man with a beer belly and a laugh like a truck engine turned into something dark and massive, shaking barbecue sauce off his muzzle like this was regular community service. My body wanted to run. Every cell in me screamed it. I planted my feet so hard my toes curled inside my shoes. Do not run from wolves. Fine, great, beautiful. I would die standing still, apparently. The thing in the trees stepped into the firelight. A wolf. But wrong. That was the only way I could explain it. Blackridge wolves looked terrifying, but they looked alive in a clean, powerful way. This one was huge, nearly as tall as Caleb's gray wolf, with dark brown fur matted in patches and one torn ear. Blood streaked its side. Its ribs showed when it breathed. Its yellow eyes were wild and fixed on the yard, with a hunger that made my throat tighten. A growl rolled out of it. My knees softened. Not emotionally, physically. The sound hit my bones first, a deep vibration that made my chest clench, and my lungs forget their job. Caleb reached back without looking and gripped my wrist. "Stay behind me." For once, I was not planning to be difficult. "Good. Don't get used to it." His mouth twitched, but the smile died before it formed. Eric walked forward. Human. Still human. Dressed in black, bottle of water forgotten on a table behind him. The firelight touched his face and found nothing soft. Daniel walked at his right. A man I didn't know moved from the crowd and stopped slightly ahead of them. He was broad and dark-haired, with a scar under his left eye and blood already drying across his knuckles from something that had happened before I ever arrived. He looked young enough to be reckless and old enough to have survived it before. Eric said, "Aaron." The man nodded once. No question. No fear. He stepped out into the open grass. The rogue wolf's lips pulled back from its teeth. I whispered, "Why is the man walking toward the murder carpet?" Caleb's eyes stayed on the wolf. "Aaron Davis, one of our fighters." "Wonderful. Does Aaron have a gun?" Caleb shot me a look like I'd suggested Aaron use a salad fork. "No weapons," he said. "Not for this." "Why the fuck not?" "Wolf law." I hated those two words immediately. Aaron stopped 20 feet from the rogue. "Submit," he said, voice loud and steady. "You crossed Blackridge territory. Shift and speak or lower your throat." The rogue snarled. Aaron's jaw tightened. "Last chance." The rogue lunged. Aaron shifted before it reached him. 1 second he was a man. The next, his bones snapped and a reddish-brown wolf exploded forward, huge and fast enough to make my eyes water. The two bodies collided with a sound like a car crash made of meat. I flinched so hard my plate dropped. Macaroni hit the grass. Nobody cared. The wolves tore into each other in the open yard where children had been laughing minutes earlier. Teeth flashed, claws ripped through fur and skin. Aaron slammed the rogue sideways, but the rogue twisted under him and bit into his shoulder. Aaron's growl shook the patio stones. Blood sprayed dark across the grass. "Oh my God," I breathed. The rogue drove Aaron back. They hit one of the trees at the edge of the yard hard enough to crack bark. A pregnant woman inside the patio doors covered her mouth. A child started crying, then went silent when Rebecca pulled him against her hip. I looked at Eric. He stood still, just watching. My stomach turned hot with anger. "Stop it." Eric didn't look at me. "No. He's bleeding." "Yes. Eric." His eyes cut to mine. Gold burned through the dark. "Do not step closer." "I'm not trying to pet them. I'm telling you to stop the fucking fight." "This is not entertainment, Jaynayah." "No shit, that's my point. This is law." Aaron ripped free from the rogue's teeth and slammed a paw into its side. The rogue yelped, then surged up and caught Aaron across the muzzle with its claws. More blood, more snarling. Dirt kicked up under their paws. My hands shook at my sides. I hated feeling useless. I hated standing there while everyone else understood rules I didn't. I hated that nobody was calling police or grabbing weapons or doing any of the human things people did when violence broke out. But then again, human rules had never saved Moloch. Human laws had never stopped Raymond from putting holes in walls and bruises on my mother. Maybe every world had its own bullshit. This one just came with claws. Aaron pinned the rogue for half a second. The whole yard went still. The rogue's throat was exposed. Submission. Even I understood that much from the way Caleb's body loosened slightly. Then the rogue kicked upward and sank its teeth into Aaron's neck. People snarled around me. Caleb moved. Eric lifted one hand. Caleb froze. Aaron stumbled. The rogue tore free and went for him again, jaws open wide enough to crush bone. Eric shifted. No stripping. No warning. No theatrics. His shirt shredded. His body dropped forward, and the black wolf burst out of him like violence had finally grown bored of wearing skin. The change was faster than before. Meaner. One heartbeat, Eric Anderson stood in the grass. The next, the massive black wolf hit the rogue from the side. The ground seemed to jump. The rogue flew. Actually flew. It crashed into the dirt, rolled, and tried to scramble up. Eric's wolf was already there. Black fur swallowed firelight. His red tail flashed behind him like a warning dipped in blood. He didn't snarl at first. He didn't need to. The rogue attacked anyway. Stupid. Eric met him head on. There was no fight after that. Not really. There was Eric's wolf moving with brutal, impossible precision. A snap of jaws, a twist of shoulders. One paw driving the rogue down so hard I heard ribs crack. The rogue clawed at him, but Eric didn't flinch. He lowered his head and closed his teeth around the rogue's throat. Everything stopped. Even the fire seemed quieter. Aaron's reddish-brown wolf limped back, bleeding and furious, but alive. Every wolf in the yard lowered their heads. Human ones, too. Daniel, Caleb, Ashley near the patio, Lauren by the training path, Jordan with one arm around Rachel, Rebecca holding 2 children against her sides. Even the kids behind the glass went silent. And I understood. Not liked, not accepted, understood. Eric Anderson wasn't alpha because he had money. He wasn't alpha because he owned land, or wore expensive watches, or made men like Raymond piss themselves in their own living rooms. He was alpha because every creature on that lawn knew he could kill them. And he was choosing not to. Eric's wolf held the rogue pinned until the fight drained out of him. The rogue's paws twitched. Its wild eyes rolled once toward me. Toward me. My breath caught. Eric released his throat. The rogue convulsed. Fur rippled backward in patches. Bones shifted halfway, wrong and incomplete. A man's face pushed through the wolf's muzzle, bloody and distorted. One eye still yellow, one hand still clawed. Someone behind me whispered, "Don't!" The rogue coughed blood into the grass. Then he looked straight at me and rasped, "Raymond Cross promised the human to Tyler me you're first." Raymond Cross promised the human to Tyler Moore first. The words did not hit all at once. They circled me. Raymond Cross promised the human first. Like there had been a waiting list for my body, and my father had been handing out tickets. The half-shifted rogue coughed blood into the grass. Eric's black wolf stood over him, one massive paw planted near the man's twisted shoulder, gold eyes burning in the firelight. Around us, the pack stayed frozen. Even the kids behind the glass doors had gone quiet. I looked at Caleb. "Who the fuck is Tyler Moore?" Caleb's face shut down. That was answer enough. "Oh, I hate that," I said. "I hate when people suddenly develop secret-keeping cheekbones." Daniel moved toward the rogue. 2 wolves followed him, shifting back into naked men without the slightest concern for my already suffering eyes. They grabbed the rogue under the arms and dragged him toward the house like bleeding intruders were a normal barbecue cleanup item. Eric shifted back. Bones cracked. Fur receded. The red tail disappeared last, and then Eric Anderson stood naked in the ruined grass, blood splashed across his chest, looking like violence had taken human form and acquired a bank account. Daniel tossed him pants. Eric caught them without looking at me. Good, because if he looked at me right then, I might have picked up the nearest folding chair and tested his reflexes. He pulled the pants on, slow and controlled, because apparently alphas did not rush even after somebody announced my father had sold me twice. I walked straight toward him. Caleb said, "Jaynayah, don't." He stopped. Smart wolf. Eric's eyes met mine, still gold around the edges. "You knew," I said. The yard held its breath. Eric's expression did not change. "Inside." "No, out here. In front of your ribs, your pregnant women, and your half-naked fight club. You knew my father owed somebody else." His jaw tightened. "Yes." The answer punched through me. I laughed once, sharp and ugly. "Wow, look at that. Honesty, but make it useless. Raymond owed multiple people. And you forgot to mention the other werewolf with a claim ticket? I did not know Tyler had a formal claim. But you suspected." Silence. My skin went hot. "Oh, you cold, arrogant son of a bitch." Daniel stepped forward. Eric lifted one hand and Daniel froze. I pointed at Eric's chest. "Do not call off your guard like I'm the one being unreasonable. You kidnapped me because you got to my house first. Eric's voice lowered. I took you before Tyler could. That is not better. It is if you understand Tyler more. I don't understand shit, Eric, because everyone here keeps explaining things after they try to kill me. His eyes flashed brighter. Tyler would not have bargained with you. Something in my stomach turned. I hated that my brain filled in the blanks. No bargain, no rules, no bedroom upstairs, no Rebecca feeding me like I was breakable, no Caleb making jokes, no Ashley's hard truths, no Lauren's warnings, just another monster taking what Raymond offered. I swallowed. Then Malik's face rose in my mind. His still body, his quiet room, the machines breathing their patient mechanical breaths. His hand limp under mine while I told him stupid stories, because silence felt too much like surrender. My rage changed shape. What about my brother? Eric went still. The pack did too. My voice dropped. If Raymond promised me to somebody worse, what else did he promise? What else does Tyler know? Eric didn't answer fast enough. I stepped closer. I need to see Malik. Jaynayah. No. My hands were shaking, and I hated it, so I curled them into fists. You do not get to keep me here with your wolf rules and your secrets while my brother is lying in a hospital bed with my father anywhere near him. Raymond has not gone near Malik. You don't know that. I do. The certainty in his voice made me colder than any hesitation would have. I stared at him. What did you do? Eric looked past me. Daniel. Car. No buffering. No mind linking. No alpha whisper network. I shoved a finger at his chest. Answer me like I'm a person. His gaze came back to mine, hard and unreadable. Then he said, I moved Malik this morning. For a second, everything went silent in the wrong way. Not pack silent. Me silent. You what? He was vulnerable where he was. You moved my brother? To a private facility. My brother, I repeated, because apparently he had misunderstood the key detail. My Malik. The person who is not yours. The one person in my life you do not get to collect like debt paperwork. Eric's expression sharpened. He is safer. You don't get to make that decision. I already did. The urge to hit him was so strong my arm actually twitched. Caleb made a small sound behind me. I didn't look away from Eric. Take me to him. Now. Eric held my stare for one long, vicious second. Then he said, Get in the car. I should have felt like I won. I didn't. The drive into the city happened in one of the black SUVs because of course it did. Billionaire werewolf kidnappers apparently traveled only in vehicles that looked ready to escort presidents or remove bodies. Daniel drove. Eric sat beside me in the back. Caleb came too, squeezed into the front passenger seat, unusually quiet. That worried me. Caleb, without jokes, felt like a bad omen wearing sweatpants. The estate gates opened. Forest swallowed the windows, dark and thick. Cameras blinked red along the road. No one spoke for miles. I watched Eric's reflection in the glass. He had changed into a black shirt before we left. The blood was gone from his skin, but I could still see it in my head. His wolf's teeth around the rogue's throat. The pack lowering their heads. The way every life in that yard had waited on his choice. You moved him without calling me, I said. You had no phone signal. Do not be a dick on a technicality. His eyes slid to me. I moved him because Raymond's debt expanded beyond my territory. Your territory. Your debt. Your rules. I turned from the window. Do you hear yourself? Yes. And I would do it again. The honesty was worse than an apology. At least apologies could be thrown back. The city lights appeared after a while, smeared gold and white across the windshield. We did not go to Malik's hospital. I knew that before Daniel turned. My chest tightened. This isn't the way. No, Eric said. The building we pulled up to looked nothing like the long-term care facility Malik had lived in for 11 years. That place was clean enough, bright enough, tired enough. Nurses who knew too many families. Old vending machines. Floors polished by habit, not money. This facility was glass, stone, and quiet landscaping. The sign out front read Anderson Meridian Care in sleek silver letters. Of course his name was on the building. Security met us at the entrance. Not hospital security either. These men wore suits and earpieces and moved like Daniel's cousins in violence. A nurse was waiting inside, short and brown-skinned, with a neat bun and a tablet hugged to her chest. "Mr. Anderson," she said. Then she looked at me. Her expression softened. "Ms. Cross, your brother is settled." My throat almost closed. I hated that. "Room," I said. She nodded. "This way." The halls smelled like lemon cleaner, fresh linen, and money trying to pretend it was compassion. The lights were gentle, no flickering, no distant alarms screaming down the corridor, no family members sleeping folded in plastic chairs because the hospital forgot grief needed somewhere to sit. Moloch's room was private. Private. A wide window overlooked a small garden lit by soft path lights. His bed was newer, adjustable in ways his old one had not been. The monitors were sleeker. The ventilatory equipment near the wall hummed quietly. There was a recliner beside him, a blanket folded over the arm, and a small table with water bottles, tissues, and a box of gloves. Moloch lay in the center of it all, 23 years old. Still, beautiful. My baby brother, even though he had been taller than me before the world stopped letting him move through it. His hair had been washed and covered with a clean cap. His skin looked moisturized. His nails were trimmed. Someone had positioned his hands carefully over the blanket instead of leaving one twisted at an angle that would make my chest ache all day. Relief hit me so hard I nearly sat down on the floor. Then anger came right behind it because Eric Anderson had no right to make me grateful. I went to Malik's bedside, took his hand. "Hey, Mal." My voice came out rough, so I cleared my throat. "You will not believe the bullshit I have been dealing with. Dad sold me to werewolves. Werewolves, Malik, like full-on big-ass wolves. Not cute ones either. One looked at me like I was a snack cake." The monitor beeped steadily. I squeezed his hand. "They moved you to a rich people hospital," I whispered. "So now if you wake up acting brand new, I'm blaming the thread count." No response. There was never a response. Some days, I handled that better than others. Tonight was not one of those days. I bent over his hand and pressed my forehead against his knuckles. My eyes burned, but I refused to let the tears become dramatic. Hospitals had seen enough of my crying. I was not giving the walls a greatest hits performance. Behind me, Eric stayed at the door. He did not come closer, did not offer comfort, did not touch me, did not say some useless shit about everything happening for a reason. He just stood there like a guard, like nothing would get through him. For one dangerous second, I hated him less. Then I remembered he moved my brother without asking, and balance returned to the universe. "You don't make decisions for him again," I said without turning around. Eric's voice was quiet. "If his life is at risk, I will." I lifted my head and looked back at him. "He isn't yours." "No," Eric said. "He's yours." That landed in a place I had not protected well enough. The nurse appeared in the doorway before I could answer, her tablet now clutched tighter. "Mr. Anderson," she said carefully, "security sent the footage you requested from the original facility." Eric's face changed. So did Daniel's. I stood. "What footage?" No one answered. Naturally. I walked over before anybody could stop me. The nurse turned the tablet toward Eric, but I saw the screen too. A grainy camera angle from outside Moloch's old hospital. Afternoon sun. Loading entrance. Timestamp from earlier that day. Raymond Cross stood near the curb, shoulders hunched, mouth moving fast. Beside him was a polished man in a gray suit. Tall, dark-haired, handsome in a clean, expensive way that made my stomach distrust him immediately. The man turned his face toward the camera as if he knew exactly where it was. Then he smiled. Eric's fingers tightened around the tablet until the glass cracked. Daniel's voice went flat. Tyler Moore.
Tyler Moore had always known where to look when he wanted an audience. On the security footage, he turned his face toward the camera, like the lens was a dinner guest. Smooth suit, clean smile, violence tucked neatly behind expensive teeth. Raymond Cross stood beside him, twitching like the coward he was. But Tyler looked calm. That was the threat, not the presence. The calm. He wanted me to know he had been close to Malik Cross, close to Jaynayah's weak point, close enough to touch what she loved. By the time we returned to Blackridge, dawn had started bleeding through the trees. Jaynayah did not sleep. Neither did I. Daniel locked down Anderson Meridian Care before we reached the estate gates. 4 wolves were stationed at Malik's floor, 2 at the private entrance. 1 nurse was replaced. Every staff badge was rechecked. Raymond's face went into every security system connected to my name, and Tyler's went into systems that officially did not exist. It was not enough. Nothing was enough. Once Tyler Moore started smiling at cameras. Jaynayah stood in my office at 8 in the morning, wearing yesterday's anger and a fresh glare. Her curls were pulled back from her face, but a few loose pieces had escaped around her temples. She looked tired. Not fragile, never fragile. Tired like someone who had spent her whole life holding a door closed with her back. Daniel stood beside the desk, while Ashley worked through hospital footage on one of the side monitors. Caleb lounged near the wall until Jaynayah looked at him. Then he straightened like he had been caught enjoying oxygen. I had just finished mind-linking the South Patrol when Jaynayah snapped her fingers in my direction. Stop doing that. My eyes moved to her. Doing what? The werewolf Wi-Fi thing. She pointed between Daniel and me. Your eyes go dead, everyone gets quiet, and suddenly I'm the only person in the room without the murder newsletter. Are you all buffering again? Caleb coughed into his fist. Daniel did not move. Ashley's mouth twitched. I leaned back in my chair. We were discussing security. Out loud is a beautiful option. Not when speed matters. Then teach me what matters. The room changed around that sentence. Ashley looked up fully. Daniel's attention sharpened. Caleb stopped pretending he was not interested. Jaynayah crossed her arms. If your plan is to keep me locked upstairs while Werewolf LinkedIn debates who owns me, I'm going to become everyone's problem. You already are, I said. Her smile was sharp enough to cut. Then train the problem. My wolf lifted its head inside me. No. That was fast. You are human. Thank you. I was worried the lack of fur was a symptom. You do not heal like us. You cannot outrun us. You cannot hear the pack. Training you to fight wolves would be putting a knife in a child's hand and calling it strategy. Her eyes went colder. Do not compare me to a child. Then do not mistake survival lessons for power. The words landed hard. I watched her absorb them, hate them, and keep standing anyway. That was the thing about Jaynayah Cross. Fear moved through her. It did not move her out of the way. I'm not asking you to teach me how to win, she said. I'm asking how not to die because I accidentally looked at somebody's tail wrong. Caleb raised a finger. To be fair, tails are important. She turned her head slowly. Why did that sound nasty? Because your mind is a haunted alley. Because this place is one. Daniel looked at me. Basic conduct would reduce incidents. I knew what he meant. She needed to understand hierarchy, body language, shift space, pack commands. The difference between anger and challenge, between fear and prey behavior. I also knew what Caleb was about to do before he said it. I can teach her, Caleb offered. No, I said again. Jaynayah looked between us. Why not him? Because Caleb considers instructions a starting point for poor decisions. Caleb pressed a hand to his chest. That hurts because it's well supported by evidence. Ashley snorted. Jaynayah's gaze returned to me. You teach me then. My wolf liked that. I did not. There were lines I kept because I knew what happened when power stood too close to need. Jaynayah was under my roof because of a debt she had not made. Her brother was in my facility because danger had forced my hand. Her body, her fear, her anger, her mouth, all of it existed inside circumstances I controlled. I would not turn her survival into another leash. Caleb, I said, not looking away from her. Training grounds, inner perimeter only. Caleb grinned. Yes, Alpha. Jaynayah gave me a fake smile. Look at us compromising. Kidnapping really is about communication. Jaynayah. What? Listen to him. Her eyes narrowed. I listen when people say useful shit. Then you should be quiet enough to hear it. For half a second the office breathed danger. Then she smiled wider. See, that was almost advice. She left with Caleb before Daniel could decide whether to admire her courage or file her under security hazard. I watched them from the office window because I had work to do and no intention of pretending I was not distracted. The training grounds sat east of the main house, bordered by packed dirt, equipment sheds, and the first thick line of forest. By mid-morning, pack life had resumed in the stubborn way it always did after violence. Children were kept closer to house. The pregnant women stayed within sight of guards. Aaron Davis, bandaged and furious, argued with Vanessa near the medical room because fighters were the worst patients alive. And Jaynayah stood in the dirt with Caleb Brooks, chin lifted like she wanted to fight the entire species. Caleb circled her once. First rule, don't bare your throat unless you mean surrender. She touched her neck. I have a neck. It exists. What do you want me to do? Wear turtlenecks until menopause? Lifting your chin at a dominant wolf can read as challenge. Tilting your head back exposes the throat. That can mean trust, surrender, or invitation, depending on context. Invitation? Her brows climbed. Everything here turns sexual if I stand wrong. Caleb smiled. Sometimes. I hate this furry-ass society. From the porch, Rebecca laughed so loudly I heard it through the glass. Caleb lifted a hand. Second rule, don't stare too long at dominant wolves. Jaynayah's expression shifted. Not fear, memory. I don't lower my eyes on command, she said. Caleb's voice gentled without losing its shape. Looking away is not always losing. Sometimes it means you decided the room isn't worth bleeding in. She studied him. Then she nodded once. Small, reluctant. My fingers curled against the edge of my desk. Daniel glanced at me. She listens to him. I have eyes. You dislike that. I dislike many things. Caleb is loyal. I know what he is. Daniel wisely stopped speaking. Outside, Caleb continued. Do not touch a wolf's tail. Jaynayah stared. Who is out here grabbing wolf ass? Children, drunk mates, idiots with short lives. Please point me toward the idiots. I need a ranking system. Do not run screaming unless you want everyone excited. If I run, I'm going to be screaming. I believe in accuracy. And don't assume a wagging tail means friendly. She threw both hands up. That is false advertising. Caleb laughed. So did two guards near the equipment shed. I did not. Jaynayah turned fear into mockery. Most wolves would mistake that for fearlessness. It was not. It was armor. I recognized armor because I wore control the same way, tight enough to keep the wound underneath from showing. Caleb stripped a few minutes later. Jaynayah covered her eyes with two fingers spread wide enough to see through. Every time you'll take your pants off in public, a human resources department dies. Caleb shifted, bones cracked, fur ripped through skin. His grey wolf rose out of the dirt, huge and sleek, shaking once from nose to tail. Jaynayah stepped back despite herself. Good. Some instincts deserved respect. Caleb lowered his body to the ground and looked at her over one shoulder. Jaynayah's mouth opened. Absolutely not. Caleb huffed. No, do not huff at me like I'm being unreasonable. You are the size of a Hyundai with teeth. He gave a low, playful growl. My wolf answered inside my chest. I mind-linked him. Do not scare her. Caleb's ears flicked. I'm charming her. You are 3 seconds from medical care. She needs to know how wolf speed feels, Alpha. Inner trail, 1 loop. I should have refused. Instead, I watched Jaynayah put one hand in Caleb's thick fur. She tested his weight, tested her courage. Then she swung a leg over his back and settled awkwardly between his shoulders, gripping with both hands. Her thighs locked against his sides. My wolf did not like that. The reaction was immediate and unreasonable. Caleb was not a rival. He was Pack. He would cut out his own tongue before disrespecting my claim in front of me. But my wolf did not care about reason. It understood touch, trust. Her hands in another male's fur, her body carried by another wolf. Caleb rose carefully. Jaynayah sucked in a breath. If I fall, I'm suing all of you. Then Caleb took off. Her scream tore across the grounds. Caleb Brooks, I hope your dick falls off. The pack burst into laughter. Caleb hit the inner trail at a controlled sprint, fast enough to show power, slow enough not to throw her. They vanished between the trees, grey fur flashing through the green shadows. I was out of my chair before I decided to move. Daniel followed me to the door. Alpha. I know. But knowing did not stop the pull. By the time I reached the tree line, my control had worn thin enough for my wolf to press against the underside of my skin. I let the shift take me. Pain, heat, release. The world sharpened. The sound opened. Scent layered itself into meaning. Dirt, pine, Caleb's wolf. Jaynayah's fear, bright and bitter at first. Then something changed. Her scream broke apart. Not into terror. Into laughter, real laughter, fast, breathless, shocked out of her like she had forgotten she owned it. My wolf stilled. That sound did not belong to Raymond's house. It did not belong beside hospital machines or inside debt contracts. It did not belong to survival. It belonged to her. And Caleb had pulled it from her. A growl moved through me before I could bury it. The inner trail curved back toward the grounds. Caleb slowed as he emerged, tongue out, pleased with himself in a way that guaranteed future violence. Jaynayah clung to his fur, brown skin warm with exertion, eyes bright, mouth open around another laugh she tried to swallow the second she saw me. She looked alive. It hit me lower than it should have. Want was never gentle in me. It was teeth behind a closed mouth. Caleb dropped to his belly so she could slide down. The moment her feet touched dirt, he lowered his head. Smart. Jaynayah stared at me. Black fur, gold eyes, red tail dragging through the grass behind me like a warning. The yard quieted. She did not run. Her heartbeat kicked hard enough for me to hear it, but she stood there, breathing fast, gaze locked on mine. Afraid, fascinated, beautifully, dangerously curious. I stepped toward her. Every wolf within sight went still. Jaynayah swallowed. What? I lowered my massive head. The pack bond went silent. Caleb stopped breathing. Daniel's mind closed like a fist. Even Rebecca, watching from the porch with one hand on her pregnant belly, did not speak. Jaynayah looked at the space between my ears, then at my eyes. Don't make this weird, she whispered, and laid her hand in my fur. Every wolf in Blackridge went silent. Jaynayah's hand settled in my fur, and the entire pack forgot how to breathe. She touched me carefully at first. Not gently, Jaynayah Cross did very few things gently. Her fingers slid between the thick black strands above my eyes with suspicion, like she expected my skull to open and reveal another secret she had not approved. Her palm was warm, human, fragile in all the ways wolves were trained to notice, and all the ways my wolf refused to care about. She smelled like fear, adrenaline, sweat, and Caleb's fur. My wolf hated the last part. Her heartbeat beat fast enough for every predator in the yard to hear, but she did not pull away. She stood with dirt on her shoes, curls loose from their tie, brown skin glowing with the heat of the run, and her mouth pressed into a line because she was too proud to admit her hand was trembling. "Okay," she whispered. "You're extremely soft for something that looks like it eats nightmares." A few wolves behind her made strangled noises. I did not move. I lowered my head to her. That meant something. To her it was probably a strange animal allowing a touch. To Blackridge it was worse. An alpha did not present his head, not to another dominant wolf, not to a fighter, not to a human woman dragged into pack territory by debt, blood, and my own arrogance. I had given my pack a public sign none of them would misunderstand. My wolf had accepted her hand, and by extension, her. Jaynayah looked around slowly. Why is everybody acting like I just slapped the Pope? Caleb, still in wolf form, lowered his head farther. Coward. I stepped back before my wolf did something even more dangerous, like lean into her touch. Her hand fell away. My skin missed it. That irritated me enough to make the shift sharper than necessary. Bones cracked, fur pulled back, heat split through muscle and spine, and then I stood in the training yard on 2 feet, with the morning air cooling naked skin. Jaynayah threw both hands up and turned around. For fuck's sake, pants! Is there a global shortage? Daniel appeared with a pair of black sweats and handed them to me without looking at her. I dressed. You touched my wolf. You offered your wolf. She kept her back to me. Do not start blaming me because your big ass got sentimental. A faint ripple moved through the pack bond. Amusement, shock, disbelief. I cut through it with a single command. Enough. Every mind went quiet. Jaynayah turned, caught the shift in their expressions, and narrowed her eyes. You did the Wi-Fi thing again. Mindlink. I hate it. I know. No, you enjoy that I hate it. I looked at her. Sometimes. Her eyes sharpened, but beneath the irritation was awareness. She felt the change even if she did not understand it. The pack was watching her differently now. Not like a curiosity, not only like a problem, like something marked by their alpha. I should have corrected it immediately. I did not. By midday, she noticed. Rebecca put too much food on her plate, then growled at a guard who stared too long. Jordan Bennett dipped his head when Jaynayah passed, a reflexive acknowledgement he tried to disguise by kissing Rachel's cheek. 2 children whispered near the hallway, until Rachel hissed at them to stop being nosy little wolves. Ashley watched from the security room with knowing eyes. Lauren watched like she was measuring the size of the cage. Jaynayah lasted until evening. I knew she would. She did not knock on my office door. She opened it, stepped inside, and shut it behind her with enough force to make the glass wall tremble. Daniel was at my desk with a tablet. Ashley stood near the monitors. Both looked at me. Out, I said. Daniel did not argue. Ashley hesitated for half a second, gaze flicking toward Jaynayah, then left with him. The door clicked shut. Jaynayah crossed her arms. What the hell did you do? I leaned back in my chair. You will need to narrow that down. Do not billionaire asshole your way through this. People are looking at me like I accidentally married into the mafia. You touched my wolf in front of the pack. You lowered your head. Yes. So that was what? Religious? Sexual? Do I owe someone a goat? It was trust. Her face changed slightly. I watched the word land, watched her reject it because trust from me was inconvenient. She preferred me cleanly monstrous. It made her anger easier to hold. I don't trust you, she said. I did not say you did. You just said, my wolf trusted you. She went still. The room was quiet, except for the low hum of the security wall. The estate breathed beyond the glass. Distant voices, the thud of fighters on the training grounds, a child laughing somewhere downstairs. Jaynayah looked away first, but it was not submission. It was strategy. I'm not Pack, she said. No. I'm not your mate. The word slid under my skin and woke every dangerous part of me. No, I said. I'm not one of your collected women. No. Her eyes came back to mine. Did you sleep with them? The question was clean, direct, and edged in something she did not want me to see. I stood. She did not step back. With who? Do not do that. Her voice hardened. Do not make me list names like I'm asking about your fucking calendar. The women, Ashley, Lauren, the others, the ones you took as payment. No. She blinked once. Only once. No, she repeated. No. None of them. None. Her arms tightened over her chest. Because I've heard the stories. I know the stories. You let people tell them. Yes. Why? Because men who think their daughters, sisters, and mates are bargaining chips deserve to believe I am the worst thing waiting for them. That is not an answer. It is the only one that matters to them. It matters to me. That stopped me, not the words, the way she said them. Low, angry, vulnerable enough to piss her off. I moved around the desk, slowly enough that she could leave if she chose. I did not fuck women while they were dead. Not while they were afraid. Not while they were under my roof because some bastard offered them to save himself. Her gaze searched my face like she wanted to find the lie and punish me with it. I enjoy control, I said. I have never pretended otherwise, but desperation is not consent. Her breath shifted. Barely, I heard it anyway. No woman has to spread her legs for protection in Blackridge, I continued. No woman has to use her cunt as rent. No woman has to smile at me because she thinks I will throw her to wolves if she says no. Jaynayah's jaw worked, but nothing came out. I knew that look. She was recalculating, not forgiving, not softening. She was too smart for that. But the monster in her head had changed shape again, and she hated me for making it harder to hate me simply. Then why call me your toy? She asked. Because I wanted to see whether you would break. Because your father offered you like meat, and I wanted him to watch someone more dangerous take the choice out of his hands. Because the first time you looked at me, you smiled while Raymond shook, and my wolf raised its head. Because I am not good. I stepped closer. You want honesty? I've been asking for it since you dragged me here. I called you my toy because I wanted to know what you would do with the word. Her eyes narrowed. And you tried to turn a kidnapping into theater. Her mouth twitched despite herself, then flattened. That doesn't answer the question. No, it answers you. I stopped close enough to feel heat coming off her body, close enough to smell the anger beneath her skin and the sharp, unwilling thread of awareness she tried to bury under sarcasm. I said you were my toy, Jaynayah. I never said I was kind enough not to play. The air changed. Her pupils widened. My wolf pressed forward, silent and intent. I wanted her mouth. Not soft, not grateful, not because fear cornered her into compliance. I wanted the argument still on her tongue. I wanted the bite, the fury, the yes if it ever came, given like a blade put willingly against my throat. She lifted her chin. A challenge, a mistake, a temptation. "You think you scare me?" she whispered. "Yes." Her lips parted. I leaned in just enough for her to feel the decision approaching. "And you think that stops me?" "No," I said. "That is the problem." The security alarm cut through the office. Sharp, repeating, wrong. Jaynayah flinched. I was already moving. The wall of monitors changed before I reached the desk. Daniel's mind slammed into mine through the link. Alpha, breach alert, human sector, Cross residence. The cameras loaded on the center screen. Jaynayah came up beside me, all color and heat draining from her expression without her ever turning pale. The feed showed a small, worn-down house in a rough neighborhood. Her mother's house. A man stood on the porch, drunk enough to sway and angry enough to be stupid. One hand pounded the door. The other held something dark and heavy at his side. Raymond Cross had violated my order. He was at Tanya's house.
The thing about seeing your childhood monster on a security screen was that distance did not make him smaller. Raymond Cross filled the monitor like he had filled every bad room of my life. Loud, drunk, mean, and too damn confident that somebody weaker was about to pay for his feelings. He stood on my mother's porch with a tire iron in one hand, swaying just enough to prove the liquor had found him, but not enough to keep him harmless. His fist hit the door again. The camera had no sound, but I knew what he was saying. I knew the shape of his rage even without audio. "Open this door, Tanya. Don't make me come in there. This is my house." My stomach turned to a hot, familiar stone. Eric was already moving. "Car," he said. Daniel stepped toward the door. "2 teams?" "3. 1 perimeter, 1 street, 1 with me." I turned on Eric. "I'm coming." No. It was not a conversation to him. It was a wall. Unfortunately for him, I had been raised in a house full of walls with holes punched through them. "Yes." His eyes cut to mine. "This is not safe. My mother is behind that door." "I know." "Then you know I'm not staying here while he breaks it down." His jaw flexed once. I stepped closer, voice dropping. "Try leaving me, and I swear to God I will steal a car, crash through your fancy-ass gate, and make this everybody's problem." Caleb, who had appeared in the hallway at some point, muttered, "She would." Daniel looked like he hated agreeing with him. Eric held my stare for 1 long second. His eyes were still human, but there was gold waiting behind them like fire behind glass. "Behind Daniel," he said finally. "If I give an order, you follow it." "I follow useful orders. Jaynayah." His voice went soft, not gentle, soft the way Vanessa had warned me about. If Eric speaks softly, move behind him. I hated that I remembered. "I'll stay behind Daniel," I said. "Good. Don't get cocky. I'm under emotional duress." Something like amusement flickered across Caleb's face and died quickly. No one laughed. The drive to my mother's house felt longer than it had any right to. Daniel drove the first SUV. Eric sat beside me in the back, silent and controlled in that awful way that made the air feel sharpened. Caleb rode in the passenger seat, not making jokes, which should have been illegal. 2 more black SUVs followed close behind us through the dark roads out of Blackridge. Forest blurred into highway. The highway bled into city lights. My knees bounced until Eric's gaze dropped to them. "Do not tell me to calm down," I said. "I wasn't going to." "Good, because I would have bitten you." "I believe that." I stared out the window, jaw tight. "You had cameras on our house." "Yes." "Since when?" "Since I gave you my word." That should not have done anything to me. It did. The bargain came back in ugly pieces. Me in my father's living room. Raymond shaking. Eric watching me like I was a puzzle with a mouth. My conditions thrown out like weapons because I had nothing else to use. My father never touches my mother again. My father never goes near Moloch's hospital. Keep him scared. I swallowed against something too thick to be anger and too bitter to be gratitude. "Don't make me thank you," I said. I didn't ask. I glanced at him. Of course he looked straight ahead, face unreadable, expensive watch catching a flash of passing streetlight. Calm. Always calm. But his hand rested on his thigh, fingers still, and I noticed the tension in them now. I hated noticing things about him. What are you going to do to him? I asked. Eric's eyes shifted to mine. What do you want me to do? The question opened a pit under me, because I knew the first answer. I had known it for years. I wanted Raymond dead. Not in the dramatic, temporary way people said after arguments, not the kill me kind of dead. I had wanted my father dead with the steady honesty of a girl who had cleaned blood from walls and learned to laugh over screaming. I had wanted him gone so my mother could breathe without checking the driveway, so Malik could have been a boy instead of a body in a hospital bed. But wanting a thing in the dark was different from having a monster ask you to name it out loud. I don't know, I said. Eric watched me for another second. Then I won't kill him tonight. My throat tightened. Just like that? Just like that. Because I said I don't know? Because it matters. I looked away before he could see too much. That was the problem with Eric Anderson. He kept doing the wrong right thing. It made hating him feel like trying to hold water in my fist. My old neighborhood looked worse with Blackridge SUVs crawling through it. Or maybe I had changed. The houses were small and tired, porches sagging under old chairs and old stories. Streetlights flickered. A dog barked somewhere behind a chain-link fence. Curtains shifted as neighbors peeked out, hungry for somebody else's disaster. My mother's house sat in the middle of it all. Porch light broken, front steps cracked. One window taped in the corner from a fight nobody had ever properly discussed. Home. The word tasted like dust, an old fear. Raymond was still on the porch when we pulled up. The tire iron hit the door as I stepped out, metal cracking against wood. My mother's voice came through from the other side this time, thin and shaking. Raymond, please leave. My body remembered before my brain did. The slap of something breaking. Malik crying. My mother screaming his name. Me at 14, standing frozen in the hallway because I was too small to stop anything and too old to pretend it wasn't happening. Daniel moved in front of me. I let him. That pissed me off, but not enough to die stupid. Eric walked toward the porch. He did not run. He did not shout. He did not shift. He moved like the whole street belonged to him and everybody else was only borrowing space. Raymond turned at the sound of footsteps. For a second he looked confused. Then he saw Eric. The tire iron lowered an inch. Then he saw me behind Daniel. His face twisted into something mean and familiar, and just like that my lungs forgot Blackridge and went back to childhood. You, Raymond spat. You brought him here? Ungrateful bitch. Caleb's growl rolled from behind me. Not human. Not fully. The neighbor's curtains snapped shut. Eric did not look back. Drop the iron. Raymond barked a laugh. This my house. It is not. My wife in there. Not yours. Raymond's mouth curled. You think money changes that? No, Eric said. I do. The quiet in his voice made the hair on my arms lift. Raymond must have felt it too, because his grip tightened around the tire iron. Fear crossed his face, quick and ugly. Then pride shoved it aside. Raymond Cross had always been the kind of coward who mistook cruelty for strength because it worked on people trapped close enough to bleed. He raised the tire iron. Eric took the porch steps. One moment he was 6 feet away. The next, he had Raymond's wrist in his hand. The tire iron clattered onto the boards. Raymond screamed. Not yelled, screamed. Eric held him there with one hand, fingers locked around his wrist like a shackle. Raymond dropped to his knees hard enough to shake the porch. His other hand clawed at Eric's forearm, useless. You were told, Eric said. I didn't touch her, Raymond choked. You tried to break down our door. She's my wife. Eric leaned down. His voice stayed calm. "Say that again." Raymond's lips trembled. I hated the satisfaction that moved through me. No, that was a lie. I loved it. I loved seeing him small. I loved seeing his body fold under fear. I loved that the man who had made us whisper in our own home was choking on silence in front of the whole damn block. And I hated myself a little for how good it felt. The door cracked open behind him. "Mama," I said. Jaynayah Cross peered through the chain, eyes wet, mouth shaking. She saw me and made a sound that almost broke me. Daniel stepped aside enough for me to get to her, but not enough to leave me exposed. My mother opened the door. I hugged her before I decided whether I wanted to. She smelled like laundry soap, fear, and the peppermint oil she rubbed into her wrists when her nerves got bad. Her arms wrapped around me too tight. "Baby?" she whispered. "Are you hurt?" "No." "Did he—" "No," I said quickly, because I knew what she was asking. "Not like that, not at all." Her eyes flicked over my shoulder toward Eric. Raymond made a wet, furious sound from the porch floor. "Tanya, don't you stand there with her like she ain't sell herself to a rich dick." I turned. Eric struck him once, open-handed, controlled. Raymond's head snapped to the side, and blood spilled from his mouth onto the porch. The street went dead silent. Eric crouched in front of him. "Her name is not yours. Her body is not yours. Her mother is not yours. Malik is not yours. You gave away things you never owned." Raymond breathed hard through his bloody mouth. For the first time in my life, he had no answer. Eric stood. Daniel moved. 2 men from the second SUV came up the walkway. Wolves pretending to be security guards, all black clothes and dead eyes. They grabbed Raymond under the arms and hauled him up. Raymond laughed. It was a cracked, ugly sound. "You still don't understand," he said, looking at me through blood and hate. "You never did." I pulled away from my mother and stepped onto the porch. "I understand you're a coward who sells his kids because paying your own debts would require having balls." His smile widened. A chill moved under my skin. "No, Jay." His voice dropped thick with blood. "I sold a name before Anderson ever came to my house. Not to banks, not to men with guns." Eric went very still. So did every wolf around him. Raymond's eyes slid to Eric, and something knowing lit inside them. Knowing. My father, my drunk, violent human father, looked at a werewolf alpha like he understood exactly what stood in front of him. My heartbeat slammed. Raymond laughed again. "Wolf debt, baby girl." I stared at him. "How the fuck do you know that?" He ignored me. Eric's face turned deadly calm. Raymond looked straight at him and said, "Tyler Moore paid first." By the time we got back to Blackridge, my father's last words were still sitting in the SUV with us. Tyler Moore paid first. Raymond had said it through a bloody mouth on my mother's porch, drunk and swaying and still stupid enough to laugh, after Eric made him remember what fear tasted like. He had tried to force his way into the house while my mother cried behind the door. Eric had not shifted. He had not shouted. He had simply walked up to Raymond and ruined him quietly. I should have hated watching it. A decent person would have. Unfortunately, I had never claimed to be decent where Raymond Cross was concerned. Part of me enjoyed every second. The other part stood there horrified by how much satisfaction could feel like hunger. Then Raymond laughed and said Tyler Moore had paid first. And all that satisfaction turned to ash in my mouth. Blackridge was too quiet when we returned. Not asleep quiet, listening quiet. The kind of quiet that meant everybody knew something had happened because everybody here had supernatural murder Wi-Fi, except me. Eric went straight into a pack meeting. I was not invited. Naturally, I went anyway. The main sitting room was full of wolves, and for once, nobody was kissing, eating, or casually naked. That alone told me things were bad. Daniel stood near Eric's right side. Ashley was by the wall with a tablet clutched against her chest. Lauren leaned near the fireplace, arms crossed, expression sharp enough to peel bark. Rebecca sat in one of the chairs with both hands resting on her belly. Rachel was beside Jordan, his arm locked around her like the world might reach in and take her. Other pack members filled the room and spilled into the hall. Parents, fighters, women with swollen stomachs, people who had laughed around barbecue smoke days ago and now looked at me like I was a match dropped near gasoline. A man I didn't know said, "She cannot stay." The room went so still I heard my own heartbeat. Eric's voice came cold. "Watch your mouth." The man lowered his head, but not enough to hide his fear. "Alpha, she's human. She knows what we are." "Well," I said from the doorway, "this is awkward." Every head turned. I lifted a hand. "Please continue discussing me like I'm a suspicious package." Daniel closed his eyes for half a second like he was praying for patience. Eric looked at me. "You should be upstairs. And you should stop having meetings about me without snacks." Nobody laughed. Tough crowd. The man who had spoken looked away first, but a woman near him didn't. She had a toddler asleep against her shoulder and terror tucked behind her eyes. If Tyler tells the wrong people Blackridge is hiding a human witness, all of us are exposed. "I didn't ask to be exposed to werewolf nudity in politics," I said. "Yet here we are." Rebecca gave me a warning look. Not cruel, just tired. That scared me more than the strangers. Ashley spoke quietly. "Jaynayah didn't choose this." "No," Lauren said, "but her not choosing it does not make her safe." I hated agreeing with Lauren. It felt unhealthy. Jordan's jaw tightened. Tyler will use her. Against Eric. Against us. "So what?" Caleb snapped from near the window. "We throw her outside and hope the other alpha is polite?" "No one said throw her outside," the woman with the toddler said. "Then say what you mean," Caleb shot back. Silence. My stomach dropped because I already knew. They meant lock me up. Trade me. Send me away. Erase me. Whatever word made them feel less monstrous in front of their children. I looked at Eric. He stood near the center of the room, dressed in black, expensive watch on his wrist, face carved from controlled violence. His eyes were human for now, but only barely. "She remains under my protection," he said. The room lowered its gaze. Not in agreement, in obedience. There was a difference, and even my human ass could feel it. I swallowed the tightness in my throat and smiled, because pain hated when you gave it teeth. "Congratulations, everybody. I came here as a toy and upgraded to a legal problem. Does Blackridge offer plaques for milestones?" No one answered. Great. Maybe I'd workshop it later. Dinner that night was not dinner. It was a storm shelter with food. The pack stayed close to the main house. Children were kept inside. Pregnant women sat away from windows. The men and women who could fight moved in restless patterns, checking doors, checking cameras, checking the dark beyond the glass. Rebecca still fed people because apparently the apocalypse did not excuse skipping meals. She pushed a bowl into my hands. "Eat." "I'm not hungry." "Eat angry then." "That's unfortunately good advice." She sat heavily beside me with a sigh, one hand pressing into her lower back. I glanced at her stomach. "You okay?" "I'm pregnant in August, surrounded by idiots, and my alpha brought home a human who attracts rival wolves." She gave me a look. "I'm glowing." I snorted before I could stop myself. For half a second, she smiled. Then the first scream came from outside. Not a howl. A scream. The windows exploded inward. Everything happened at once. Glass sprayed across the floor. Wolves surged from the dark beyond the patio, huge bodies crashing through the broken windows and open doors. Blackridge fighters shifted mid-lunge, clothes ripping apart, bones cracking as they threw themselves between the attackers and the families. A child cried. Someone shouted, "Safe room!" Rebecca was already moving. "Kids!" she barked. "Now!" I dropped the bowl and grabbed the nearest child by the back of his shirt before he ran the wrong direction. "Tiny people, move your tiny asses." Rebecca shot me a look. "What?" I snapped. "I'm helping." She shoved two kids toward me. Hallway, basement door. Code is 6294. You're giving the human the secret murder bunker code? Move! We moved. The main house turned into chaos around us. A gray wolf slammed an attacker into the dining table, splitting wood down the center. A woman shifted beside the stairs, her scream turning into a snarl as fur burst through her skin. Daniel's dark brown wolf tore across the foyer with blood already on his jaws. I kept one kid under my arm and another clinging to my shirt. The little boy was crying so hard he hiccuped. "Where's my mom?" "Probably biting somebody," I said, because honesty with children was important. "Keep running." Rebecca waddled fast behind me, which would have been funny if death wasn't redecorating the hallway. A wolf hit the wall ahead of us. Not Blackridge. I knew because every part of my body rejected it. It was leaner, dark-furred, eyes wild with that same wrong hunger I'd seen in the rogue. Its claws scraped the floor as it turned toward the children. My brain emptied, then filled with one thought. No. I shoved the kids behind me and grabbed a decorative metal stand from the hallway. It had probably cost more than my rent, and was therefore perfect for violence. The wolf snarled. My knees wanted to quit. I lifted the stand anyway. "I know you're not about to eat somebody's child in front of me. That is rude as fuck." It lunged. Rebecca hit it from the side. Not shifted. Still pregnant, still human-looking. But her eyes burned bright gold, and her hands ended in claws as she raked them across the wolf's muzzle. It yelped, and I swung the stand down with everything I had. The impact rang up my arms. The wolf stumbled. A black blur hit it next. Eric. His wolf drove the attacker through the side table and into the wall so hard plaster cracked. His red tail flashed once a hall light before he closed his jaws around the wolf's shoulder and dragged it away from us like it weighed nothing. Gold eyes cut to me. For one suspended second, the whole world narrowed to blood, broken glass, and him. I should have been afraid. I was, but I also trusted him to stand between that wolf and the kids. That realization scared me worse than the attack. Rebecca shoved my shoulder. "Safe room." "Right, emotional crisis later." We got the children downstairs. The safe room door was steel, hidden behind a storage wall like Billionaire's expected war as a scheduling inconvenience. I punched in the code with shaking fingers. 6, 2, 9, 4. The door opened. We pushed the children inside with Rachel and 2 other pregnant women already waiting. One little girl grabbed my hand and refused to let go. "I have to close it," I told her. Her lip trembled. I crouched. "Hey, listen to me. You are going to stay in here with the baby belly army, and if anybody ugly comes through that door, Rebecca will eat them. I've seen her. She's terrifying." Rebecca huffed. "Damn right." The girl let go. I shut the door. The lock sealed with a heavy click. Upstairs, the fight was still tearing Blackridge apart. I ran back before I could think better of it. The lawn had become a nightmare. Wolves collided under smoke and moonlight. Fire pits had been knocked over, flames licking at the grass. Blackridge fighters held the line near the house, while Tyler's wolves came through the trees in waves, dark shapes with flashing teeth, and too much patience behind the attack. Then Eric's black wolf broke through them. He was terrible, beautiful, a monster made of muscle and command, gold-eyed and blood-slicked, red tail cutting through smoke like a warning flag. He moved with brutal precision, tearing one attacker off Caleb, slamming another into the earth, turning every wolf near him into either obedience or meat. I stood in the broken doorway, breathing hard. I should have run. Instead, I watched him fight and understood something I did not want to know. I trusted the monster who kidnapped me more than I trusted the world I came from. The attack ended in pieces. One wolf down, then another. Then silence spreading slowly across the estate, broken only by growls, crying, and Vanessa shouting medical orders. Eric shifted back near the patio, naked, bloody, breathing hard. Someone handed him pants. His phone rang before he could put them on. No ringtone, just a sharp vibration Daniel heard before I did. He pulled the phone from Eric's discarded clothes and handed it to him. Eric looked at the screen. His entire face went still. My stomach dropped. "What?" He didn't answer. I walked to him, stepping around glass and blood. "Eric, what?" The video played on his phone. A hospital bed, white sheets, machines humming. Empty. Malik's room. My body stopped working. Then Tyler Moore's smooth voice filled the night. "You took what Raymond owed me, so I took what she loves. Bring me the human, Anderson, or her brother dies before sunrise." The video ended. Nobody moved. Not Daniel, not Caleb, not Rebecca, bloody and pregnant in the doorway. Not Eric, standing there with death in his eyes. I looked at him. My voice came out steady because the rest of me had already shattered. "Take me to him." Eric's eyes went gold. "No." Behind us, every wolf in Blackridge began to howl.
I see it in your eyes when you look away, like you're carrying storms you won't let me face. You laugh it off, say I'm okay, but your voice don't lie, it's starting to break. And I hate how I stand here playing it cool, while every part of me's reaching for you. You don't even know how close I've been to saying your name like it's mine to hold. Silence, drowning slow, and I feel every crack you don't let show. If I could take it, I